And really, what got my foot in the door there was not that I had all this brilliant work, but it was that I had done some personal projects that they found really refreshing, really unique, that type of thing. And that's kind of how I got into it. But I have been freelancing now for over 15 years. It's opened up a lot of doors to entrepreneurial things, even, kind of like Mt Freelance, which is kind of this meta thing. I'm freelance, and therefore we got to create this business together. But yeah, I am an art director. So I started out as a designer, art director, and now I also work as a creative director. Andrew, this Mt Freelance is not all we do. Andrew and I actually still freelance. Just so you know, like when we're giving advice and that type of thing, we are.
It's from like yesterday.
Yeah,
it's 6 years ago.
It's actively happening in our lives. It's not just a theory of something that happened in the past.
Yeah.
So you're up.
So I grew up freelance. My parents were freelance. And so, I sort of was born into this idea, like, why would you want to work for someone else? Why would you want to have a boss? And so, my first freelance career is I worked on movies and TV commercials as a production assistant, which is a fancy name for getting walkie-talkies and charging them and then handing them back out and getting people coffee, and kind of worked my way up to union set dresser, sort of trying to make my own films, which I did, but I wasn't making money from them. I got into performing almost accidentally, and I'll touch on this a little bit later in the workshop, but ended up getting a job at Wieden & Kennedy based on some of the work I was doing in the art world. And so, started out as a copywriter, having never, again, gone to going to art school or advertising school or, any kind of training, and had a great 7 years there. I got to work on great clients and learn so much, learned from the best, and then got laid off. And I've been freelance now for about 7 years. And for me, similar to Aaron, I think freelance it's about working hard and making good money, but then also I'm freelance for all the other opportunities. So I still get to perform. I have kids and I love spending time with my family. I love going on vacation. So, so for me, it's like having worked at Wieden & Kennedy where it's 60, 70 hours a week. I did that for a little bit, but I don't do that anymore. For me, freelance is really about creating the life that I want, and sort of, and being choosy about who I work with and saying no when I can see a project's going to be terrible. So that's really where we want to help everyone get to that place where, you're not just taking every assignment, but you are being selective, and you're sort of creating the freelance career that you want. Yeah. So why did we start Mt Freelance? How did this whole Mt Freelance thing start?
Well, it was funny. Andrew and I were actually freelancing together on a project. We had already been friends. In fact, I had cast Andrew in a commercial not a couple of years earlier. We had struck up a friendship. So anyhow, we're working on this project, and I was like, hey, you want to go grab a beer after work? You're like, no, I'm meeting another friend for a beer. And then I was like, oh, I'm meeting another friend for a coffee tomorrow. And all these conversations are about
they want to know how to freelance.
Yeah, how do you freelance? So, Mt Freelance was kind of born out of that moment of just realizing that we probably shouldn't be having this much beer and coffee. That's not healthy. We're going to create something that's a transfer of this knowledge that, frankly, we've learned through hard work, but we've also learned because people have passed on a lot of knowledge and experience to us. So we're part of our mission is to continue sharing that.
So Mt Freelance is essentially, it's an online course. So we're going to cover some of what we cover in the course. Okay, here we go. Look, this. So this is just to say that, again, I think there's a lot of advice out there that is packaged, or, like some, how to freelance, and some, you see Forbes has the same article that, Vanity Fair has that, so a lot of this information is kind of recycled. And I think when we started mapping out the Mt Freelance video course, we didn't look at it. I mean, we just based it on our own experience and, the experience of other freelancers who we know. I mean, I did 7 months down at Apple, and it was all freelancers. And every lunch, every time we're waiting for a creative review, everyone is sitting around talking, well, how does your accountant deal with flights? How does your accountant deal with this? Like, what's this place to work? Oh, you don't want to work there. So it's really, Mt Freelance is really, the experience that and the advice that we've gained, kind of the honest way by making mistakes, by learning from our mistakes, by working with clients. So it's really the course, and then we have this Facebook community, which is for members, and it's a place to get portfolio reviews. It's become kind of a place where people share job opportunities. So we actually had one member last year get I think like $70,000 worth of work just from other members by referring and stuff. So so that's kind of the 1-2 punch of Mt Freelance, and then we do stuff like this.
Yeah. Oh, and there's the coffee in
here
that we're trying to cut back on.
We like both. Yeah.
We're a little behind on our slides, but that's okay. So, okay. As difficult as the last year and a half has been, or maybe even longer at this point, there has never been a better time to be freelance. And part of the reason is most places that you freelance for, at least in the advertising world, and I know that we're kind of talking about design, a lot more design focused, which we're familiar with, but a lot of them want you to be on site. And so what that did is it kind of limited the amount of clients you could work on at one time or another. And so you'd have to kind of like commit to being on site. You'd have to drive into work. You'd have to pay for parking. You'd have to do all these things, right? And now that we're remote, it is like the perfect thing. It's like just opens up so many opportunities for you to have multiple projects going at a time. You can work on your own timeline a lot of times instead of having to just be filling a chair at a desk in an office.
The other thing is so many companies let people go, let full-timers go. And now, brands and companies, people are, the parts of the world are starting to open up again. Clients want to spend money. And all of a sudden, they don't have the staff they had. So this is such a great time for freelancers. And I think a lot of agencies and design shops are, especially the newer ones, are building freelance into the model. So the idea is not to, fully staff up. It's to have kind of a skeleton crew. It's almost like a production company model where you have a couple producers, but you hire everyone else. So, for me, a lot of my clients, they don't have a writer on staff. They bring me or someone like me in. And so, it's such a good time to be freelance. So we've got a couple exercises we're going to do. It's going to get a little life coachy here for a minute. But what we want you to do is get out a piece of paper and a Sharpie or an index card or something to write with. And we want you to think about why you are freelance. And the answer to this question is not because you were laid off. Right? Mm-hmm. We want to get at, like, what do you want from your freelance career? And this is, whether you haven't jumped to freelance yet, or even if you are trying to find a full-time job, for the moment, if you're freelance or you're thinking about becoming freelance, what are you looking for? Is it, if you just want to make all the money in the world, that is, freelance is maybe not the best.
I'm seeing there's some great comments in here.
Yeah. Comfort, freedom,
money, and freedom. I think freelance is special in a way because you can mold it to actually what's important for you. But most freelancers kind of start panicking and just taking like work that comes in and like, oh, I got a call. It doesn't sound good, but I'm not sure if the phone's going to ring. And all of a sudden the intention that you want, the freedom, maybe it's creative, kind of like a creative outlet, being able to do personal projects, working on clients that you care about instead of clients that you despise. Or it could be money. And honestly, if you can figure out freelancing and you decide you really want to put your head down, and for a couple of years, what I would do is I would work really hard for 8 months, and then I would take 4 months off. And so anyhow, there's lots of different ways to slice and dice this. It's very personal. We wouldn't say it's about money or freedom or comfort or whatever. It's very personal to you, but we're going to walk through a few things that will help you think through what your why is, and maybe the very first thought that you put in here as your why, maybe after kind of going through some of these things, you may even kind of learn a little bit more about who you are and what makes you tick, and why you freelance.
Yeah, so most companies come up with some kind of mission statement. Maybe if there are any fellow writers, you've even helped a company or a nonprofit draft their mission statement. And I think it's something that we as people don't do. So I think Aaron and I, it wasn't until we created Mt Freelance that we started thinking about like what do we want out of our freelance career and really articulating it. So if you're in the chat and you're writing, write it down. Like I am freelance because, or I want X, Y, and Z from my freelance career. And again, a little life coachy, but this is something that you can like write down. Your designer, make it beautiful, make a poster, and put it up in your workspace so that you are looking at it every day. And it is a reminder. If you are freelance because you want to work 6 months of the year and then take 6 months to work, volunteer, or travel, or develop another skill, don't take an 8-month project.
Mm-hmm.
It becomes this sort of like north star for the kind of career you want. And so today is about getting the clients that you want, and part of that is knowing like where's your goal. So actually, we can, if anyone is writing this down and has something that they want to share, we could bring a couple folks up on stage just to like show their piece of paper with their freelance mission. And it's something that can evolve. It's something that I think we've been freelance for long enough that what I wanted from freelance 3 years ago is different from what I wanted this year. I even sometimes every year I'll try something a little different. I had one year where I just said yes to every project. I made a lot of money, but I didn't see my friends or families very much. So, the next year was like being really selective about freelance.
Yeah. So did we have anyone raise their hand, Madeline?
But if
And if
you
not,
want
that's
to have
okay.
go to the Q&A tab and click the hand emoji if you want to.
Okay.
Oh, this is our we've already got some good questions for our Q&A. That's awesome.
So maybe we won't
Got someone
bring someone up on stage. Maybe we're just going to do it in the chat. But I am
this just chat's on fire. So
Yeah.
I think, and there's an accountability to this. So the fact that you guys are putting what you want in the chat is awesome. I think kind of like the advanced technique on this is if you want to start, what do you want from it now? But then what are some goals? Where do you want to be 3 years from now? Where do you want to be 5 years from now? It may be that you want to freelance for 2 years, but then you've got a family on the horizon, or at a certain point you're going to want to, you're trying to get as much experience now so that when you enter back into a full-time job, you're at a much higher level. So all that is real legitimate. Oops, are we frozen here?
Renee, are we frozen?
Looks that way.
Sure.
Yeah. Ah.
Hey guys, I think we have connection issues. Oh, I see them, they're back. So I'm gonna contact people who Sorry about this, guys. Some connection issues. I think there's so many people here. Mt Freelance, they should be coming into the green room at any point and we'll get them back on stage. Sorry for the inconvenience.
Hey!
We just went to space and back. It's very cold and dark.
And the food is terrible. It's all frozen, freeze-dried. Nice.
So I think where we left off is the importance of doing, we're on to the why. So the next step is asking some real honest questions about how you do your best work. And as a designer, as many of the attending here are today, you can start asking some of those questions in terms of just like, what do I like working on? What types of design work do I like to do? Is it UX? Is it logo design? Is it typography? Is it, is it photo manipulation? Like what are these things that are my specialty? What do I really enjoy doing? And then I think another big thing that maybe we don't think about as much is also like, what is my superpower skill that people are going to pay me for? Because I feel like, yes, just because you can do it doesn't mean you should. But also, like, what is that specialty? What is that thing that's really going to be the thing that a client's like, oh my gosh, she does hand lettering. It's amazing. And you start realizing you're getting these calls repeatedly for this, and you can start adjusting your pricing.
Yeah.
Things like that, right?
We've got 600-700 designers on this call. So just to say you're a designer is you're in a C. So I think we're going to all get a PDF of homework. And one of the first things in the PDF is a series of questions. And so this is something that we give our members. And it's a series of questions to really examine how you do your best work. And, it's really an exercise and to start building a sense of, again, being really intentional about the way you want to work. Right. So, again, if you really like to focus and you are easily distracted, you should not be juggling 9 clients. Right? But if you're the kind of person that, you're not really getting big, huge jobs and you actually like the variety and you can juggle a lot of things, then it makes a lot of sense to kind of build a different freelance model where you like, that's kind of where Aaron is more of a take it on a huge project for 3 months, make a day rate and dedicate yourself to it completely. I'm almost like a tiny little agency where I have like 5 clients that I'm always working with. They're very small. Some only need, 1 or 2 or maybe 10 hours a month. And then I'm working with 2 or 3 other projects at the same time. And, none of it's full time, but I'm actually, by juggling all these projects, I'm actually able to make more than what I would if I was just working with one, client, because I'm fast and I'm efficient. And, my clients don't necessarily need to know how fast I can write and how fast I can concept. So you'll get the PDF, and we would encourage you to sort of really take the time to go through each question and just reflect on like, how do I do my best work? What kind of, working conditions do I want? You may be in the situation right now where you're kind of needing to take what you get. But again, we want to get you to the place where you want to get to the place where you are being selective and you can say, that job doesn't fit the kind of freelance career I want. I'm not going to do my best job because I'm going to be stressed, or it's going to be too much anxiety because the timelines are crazy. So, that's one of my favorite things to do is see a job where I'm just like, that job's not going to be fun. Right. I'm going to refer that to someone else who's really amped up to work their ass off for 2 weeks. I don't want to do that.
Yeah. And I do.
Freelance.
I think.
Sorry, we've got a couple of people who raised their hands who are in the green room right now.
All right.
Share a mission statement. Shall I get them up?
Sure. Yeah, let's get them on stage.
Okay, we've got Jeff.
Jeff, how are you?
Hey, Jeff.
Good. How are you guys doing?
Good.
Surviving your heat wave?
Oh, we're cooled off now, but yeah, it was rough for a minute.
Cool. So I guess I'll respond to kind of the stream of things you guys were just talking about, which is, I started freelancing about 6 years ago now, and my primary motivations were really wanting to work with kind of a diverse range of clients and a little bit of wanting the freedom to structure my days and my career to better align with my personal life. And also a little bit of wanting to somehow tie my personal values into my career. Specifically, I've been, in my personal life, long time uh, activist in sustainability and environmental things, and was looking for ways to sort of inject that into my career. Um, and so over the course of the 6 years or so, I've been trying to figure out, like, well, what does that mean, and how do I take what I know and apply it, and what's that niche? And initially I was coming at this, well, it's brand strategy and design. I'm a designer by training, for energy companies, so solar and renewable energy, that kind of thing, which was kind of worked, but I found that I struggled with trying to identify uh, a client base that meant something too. And then I also found that a lot of the work that I was being asked to do wasn't necessarily the kind of work that I wanted to do, on the executional side. Um, so over the course of this past year, having a lot of time on my hands, I've done some soul searching and thought, well, maybe I need to go back a little bit further. I have a ton of experience with consumer brands and package design, which I really love doing. So I'm in the process of trying to figure out, like, maybe I need to refocus myself on that, on packaging. And there's certainly a lot of room for sustainability around improving package design. So maybe that's what I need to do. And I guess that kind of brings me down to why I'm here, which is I'm really curious to know, how do you guys think about defining that niche? How do you verify that it's actually something that is worth pursuing? And there's certainly the idea of, this is what I love to do, but you do need to kind of balance it with, is somebody going to pay me to do that? Yeah, I'm like, how do you figure that out?
I'll just give I think that, number one, you're being very thoughtful about your why, which I think is we're going to congratulate everyone for thinking through their why, because honestly, we don't typically do that. We are getting a little life coachy, but it's important for us to have, like you said, your values, your kind of your passions, and the business side of it all line up for this to work, right? We are going to talk about website, and we're I'm cheating ahead a little bit, but we do a thing called a 5-second grunt test, which is basically a friend of mine named Donald Miller, who, if you want to follow him, he kind of coined that. But it basically, within 5 seconds, can someone go to your website, know what you do, know probably who you serve, what services you offer, and just essentially be able to communicate really clearly back to you, like, what you're offering. Most websites don't come close to doing that. A lot of websites you go to, you don't know what they do. You don't know what these. So what I would say, since you're getting really, really niche, I would make sure that there's a part of your website that's easy to get to, that you can send people to, that fit within this thing that you're going to do. But then I would also kind of continue to keep a wider path to catch more work. Because, the reality is, for, money and is the fuel of freelance. So you don't want to get too narrow too quickly without having the ongoing, support rolling in, and we can talk more about it. But super good question, and I think you're taking the first few steps of really thinking this through, and I think you kind of need to have it reflect your website and what you do and how you put yourself out there needs to reflect these specific things that you're going for. And if they don't reflect it to other people, no one's really gonna know that that's what you're going for.
I'm going to add on a little bit. You're going to see that we are we don't do short Q&As. I think what we love to do, I love to do Q&A because it's, these questions are really deep. So I want to touch on something that I bet a lot of the people on this in this workshop are thinking about, which is, do you identify as yourself, Andrew Dixon, or do you identify as a company? And I think as freelancers, clients are really coming to us to solve problems. So, if you are Jeff Sugarman, the chances of someone finding you who is looking for, that mission-driven work is going to be, I think, a smaller chance versus even if you're just Jeff Sugarman, or maybe you have a couple collaborators, but if you start a company whose mission is to do this kind of work, the illusion that you are a corporate entity or an organization versus an individual, clients will think of you, sort of more as a partner who is going to help them do this work together. So again, to Aaron's point, maybe it's, it's a little bit, of a, approach it from both directions, maybe on one website, maybe on two. But, I think especially we have a lot of our younger members who are wrestling with this. And do I show up as me, or am I an agency of one and I brand myself and clients deal and sort of treat people versus, clients very differently. And a lot of it has to do with, are you looking, once you call yourself a company, no one's going to bring you in on a day rate to work on a client, but you're going to get other kinds of opportunities, so it's a really, a thoughtful question.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Okay. It looks like we maybe have, we got Isaiah.
Hey guys.
Student. Wow.
That is right. Yep. Yeah, I'm a college student at Georgia Tech right now, but I was just going to respond to one of the questions of just what do you want to do in freelancing, or why do you do it? So I did write it down on a notepad, nice. Easy for you guys to read. I want to build my own mission and not someone else's. So basically, I really hate corporate work. And I've got in the past year, I've had this entrepreneurial bent of things I want to build and stuff I want to do. And just working corporate isn't going to it's not going to cut it. I just want to be proud of something, having built a bunch of stuff by the time I die. And I don't think I can do that working corporate. So that's what I got.
Yeah. I love that. I also, one thing that Andrew and I talk about is you do learn a lot when you take a corporate job at the beginning, but if you've already decided that's not for you, that's actually awesome. And yeah. I would put all of your energy into learning how to do business and learning how to bring your ideas to life and how to serve other people's needs within design community that you want to work with.
Mm-hmm. And it probably makes a lot of sense to start finding like-minded people. I think when you're just a freelancer, you are slotting into a company often that has project managers and producers and writers. But if you really are, it sounds like just jumping off with, what I mentioned to Jeff, probably going more the starting your own, firm or studio or agency or whatever, whatever this collective, whatever this becomes, having collaborators who can, you can scale on a project with you, who can complement what you have to offer is going to be really essential, I think sometimes we think of we can only take on the jobs that we are capable of, but you can take on any job that people that you can partner with to complete together. So if film producers and writers and and you're a designer, all of a sudden you can make a movie or you can make a TV commercial. Maybe you can't do it all yourself, but you can work with them to sort of create this team that can accomplish it.
Awesome. Thanks, guys.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thanks for jumping on stage. This is exciting having people on stage. I like that.
Right. So yeah, I think, thinking about your why, we're going to give you this homework assignment that has all these questions about kind of what kind of working conditions allow you to do your best work. Thinking about what makes you special. What's your superpower? We're going to start talking about website here shortly. And, don't make the mistake of using your about me to only talk about your hobbies or to make jokes about yourself. I mean, this is where clients are coming to see what do you bring to the table. What makes you, are you are you a logo expert? Do you bring, UX and UI? Do you bring, are you just incredibly prolific? Do you have vast experience doing, billboards and out of home and, experiential ideas? So getting super specific about why is someone going to hire you versus another designer? Like, what can you bring to the table?
And I want to throw in an extra point when you're talking about what's special. A lot of times designers think they are the hero. And in many ways, you're going to be doing heroic things with a brand, with solving problems, bringing typography to life, creating new logos, or motion design. But the job of a freelancer is to make the client's work or the brand the hero. And we often kind of get a little bit caught up maybe in thinking about ourselves, but the reality is most successful freelancers, it is a service. And so and in order to command higher rates, bigger budgets, those types of things that we want to get on our projects, continue to remember that this is a service, and there are things that you can do from a service standpoint, from it being friendly, from like all that kind of stuff that actually make you more desirable as a freelancer and make them call you back instead of looking for someone new. So think about that when we're talking about what's special.
And then one more sort of exercise to think through before we get into website is to think about who is your dream client or what is your dream project, right? So I think I am so guilty of being reactive as a freelancer. I have a lot of privilege. I'm here in the US. I worked at White & Kennedy, so I have clients coming to me, but I never really sat down and said, well, who are the clients that I really want to work with? What are the kinds of jobs that I really want to do? And it's something that, again, agencies and design shops, they sit down and they make lists of the clients that they would like to work with. And very, very few freelancers do this. And what's amazing about the time we live in is because of the internet, like if you made a list of 5 of your dream clients, and we'll talk about some of these techniques later on, you can actually start connecting with them today. You can find people on LinkedIn who work there and you can request connection with them. You can follow them. You can comment on their posts. So the idea of, coming up with a list of dream clients, it may not necessarily be years away, depending on your experience. Mm-hmm. It may be that you have something to offer. You've never, maybe it's the New York Times, maybe it's, Amnesty International. Amnesty International probably needs help. So I think, and sometimes, we as freelancers don't think we can actually reach out to people. So we want you to start thinking about, make a list. Who are, have a list of your 5 or your 10 dream clients, or if who you work for is less important than the kinds of projects you're doing. Is your dream to do a big rebrand, for an apparel company or for a nonprofit? So I think, again, being really intentional, I think we're really harping on that because very few freelancers are intentional about the kind of work they want, about the kind of career they want to build. And so that's something that we really stress is that, take this time, you've carved out these 3 hours, take some time to really think about the career you want and your goals and, and do some reflecting.
Yeah. And I think we, in the homework PDF, there is a quadrant of 4 different lists that we really love to do. One is, who do you want to collaborate with? Meaning who do you want to work with? Are there specific people out there that you admire their work, or you could imagine working with this filmmaker or this motion designer or that type of thing? So we actually not only are we saying who's our dream client, it's also who are our dream collaborators. And then the other part of it, which maybe is to go through and actually say, okay, who am I collaborating with currently? What clients am I working with currently? And that's a list that will start to really kind of take shape and guide you. So anyhow, that is in the homework. It's pretty clear on what to do with that. But that's a fabulous tool, and it's just a list that you can keep going back to, keep adding to. Maybe there's a client that doesn't go well and they're on your list. Cross them off. Just don't think about them again. Move on to the next thing. Yeah, hopefully that'll help as well.
And let's actually go back over to the chat. I think we've got the Q&A open and just see if people are putting some of their
okay.
Yeah, and again, I mean, this is, you know, if you've got some, this is a list you can make, you can design it, you can put it up. You know, again, I think when we were starting, if there was an illustrator that you dreamed about working with, it was hard to figure out how to do that. But now, you know, we can connect with people so quickly. You know, we can share things with them, and it's really a pretty fantastic time. So, yeah, I think just thinking about your why, thinking about how you work, thinking about what you have to offer that maybe other designers don't, and then thinking about the clients and the projects you really want. Those are things most freelancers never do. I didn't do any of that stuff. I never did. You know, maybe passively thought, oh, it'd be cool to work for so-and-so. But it's different when you actually start to make a list and you print it out and you say, hey, I don't have any work today. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to do one move to get closer to being connected with all 10 of those clients. You know, it's not, you know, it's actually, I just read, a book by a writer, and he had a writing professor. I'm going to share a quick anecdote. I thought this was so cool. He took a class with a famous writer who said, here's what I want you to do. Every time you go to the bookstore, find this fiction section and find where your book will go. So if your last name is James, go to the J's and find where your book will go and put your finger there. And then every time you go to any bookstore, put your finger there. And what you're literally saying is, this is where I want to be. One day I want to have my own novel, and I want it to be in bookstores, and I'm putting my finger here because that's where it's going to go. It's the whole Michael Jordan sitting in the gym, you know, or the locker room before the game starts, imagining that he is making the game-winning shot. You know, so it's about setting intention and, you know, knowing where you want to go and going there.
I love that. So, you know, we want to congratulate you guys. Thanks so much for hanging in this and with our little tech snafu. You know, this is a thoughtful stuff. Now, Andrew and I are going to start getting into some real practical things when it comes to website and that type of thing. And we are going to, I think what's going to happen is we're going to go through some website ideas. We're going to do a little bit more Q&A. If we have time for a couple more questions, we'll try to be as helpful and succinct as possible, kind of wherever that overlaps. And then we're going to have a little break after that.
It's a chance to hear from Thinkific.
Yes, exactly. And so a chance to catch our breath. So let's jump in on website.
So yeah, I think, Madeline, we have a slide, and we're going to, let's see, let's bring that up. So your website is so huge. It is absolutely the best tool for getting work. And I think, you know, one of the things about having a website that's not working is I will never know how many clients were considering me for a job, went to my website and chose not to contact me or not to hire me because I wasn't answering questions they had, or I wasn't showcasing my work or what I can do in a way that was answering their questions. And I think, you know, if you're looking for a full-time job, people are going to spend more time on your website. That's a huge investment of hiring someone full-time. But if you are freelance and you want to remain freelance, like recruiters, creative directors, you know, especially if you're working, it's one thing if you're maybe helping a food cart or helping a restaurant and you are going to be their designer. But if you are working for a firm or an agency or a client, like, most recruiters are getting 200 emails. They got interviews, they got meetings. Like, they are going to look at your website for about a minute, and they are either going to keep going or they're going to move on to the next person. So,
and I will inject something here. Your website should really be the anchor, kind of the ultimate source of truth in terms of like who you are, what you do, all that type of stuff. Once a recruiter or once a creative director who's looking for a designer comes to that site and they're like, oh, okay, I like what I see here. I like what I'm reading. This makes sense. This might be a good fit. They're going to go to your other places. They're going to go to your LinkedIn. They might go look at your Dribble page. They might go look at your social, and might, Instagram. A couple of like they'll start to branch out, but they're going to start at your website. And there's there's a few important things that we can talk about with the website.
So let's go to the next slide here, and it looks simple. It's and this is in the PDF, but maybe even screenshot this, because we're going to take some time to talk through each one of these. It looks like a simple little checklist, but if your website isn't doing some of these things, like to fix any one of these things could take an hour or 2 hours or 8 hours. So this stuff is big.
And just so you know, when we take our members through Mt Freelance, we actually kind of have a very similar checklist to this. We maybe added a couple of other kind of little more design focused things here, but what we do is we say stop. If your website doesn't yet represent you, doesn't yet really nail this, like, if you aren't getting an A or a B on your website, don't move forward with all the other tactics to reach out, to get more clients, to all the other things that we're going to talk about later. We would suggest that you kind of pause, you kind of hold off on some of those other things until you really have this nailed.
Yeah, you reach out to your dream client and your website's not dialed in, they're going to say, not ready yet.
Yeah.
Versus taking the time to really work on it. So yeah, maybe we can go back full screen to us, but we want to walk through each of these for a little bit. And, it makes sense too to pull up your own website, and do a little self-audit here, or if you've got a friend on here, send it to them and you can, be sort of chatting back and forth. But Aaron touched on, we'll go kind of one by one. Aaron touched on this before, but the 5-second test. So go to your website, on your online, on your computer, maybe on your mobile, and take a look. Is it clear that you are a freelance designer? Or if you're not freelance yet, it shouldn't say freelance, because you don't want your boss to see that. And ideally, even more specifically, is it clear the kind of designer that you are? So, we've had members who have had, storied careers. They've got incredible work. It's work that has been seen around the world. And I will literally have to go to LinkedIn to find out if they're the writer or the art director or
the strategist or the account person. So putting what you do and what you offer up front in a way that's really clear is important for freelance. Now, if this was just an art site and you're an artist and you're not trying to sell work and you're just kind of doing your own thing, don't feel the need to make it this hard. But if you are a freelancer and you actually want to make money doing what you do as a career, this is important. The people that are making these decisions don't have time to do a lot of extra research or clicking around or clarifying. So this is your opportunity to be really clear. On my website, my website is called Math, DEPT. So it's like mathdepartment.com. And on there, I put Aaron James, Math Department Studio of Aaron James, because I want to have my name. And I also want to have my business name, but I also say that I'm a creative director. I'm an art director, and that should be really clear. So the next one, Andrew, is look expensive. What does that mean?
So if you are not interested in making much money as a freelancer, you can tune out for a minute. But if making a good rate is important, again, this is one of those like immediate, like if you pull up your website, close your eyes and look at it, imagine that you are a client. And imagine that you are budget conscious, which all our clients are. Does your site look like you are an expensive designer or an inexpensive designer? And this is I mean, you guys are artistic, you're creative, so this is not this is left brain, not right brain. But are you giving the impression that you are an incredible designer that should be getting good rates? So this is a lot about the actual design of your website, right? So, as a designer, you've got all your work, but your website is like 15 or 20% of your work because it is literally the first thing that most clients are going to see, right? So does it feel elevated? Does it feel elegant? Does it, or if you're going for something else, does it feel punk rock? Does it feel, I mean, if you are looking to do fashion, it should feel, fashionable. It should feel elegant. Mm-hmm. But again, it's that, clients are going to make that without even knowing it, they're going to have a first impression about, oh yeah, this is like a senior level designer. I love the work. We're probably going to have to pay a lot. Or, oh wow, it is kind of a little amateurish. I bet we can get them for, not so much money.
Yeah. There was a great question that came up earlier, and I think it was Rwan said, okay, so I work for a studio. Okay, here it is. What should my website say if I'm doing freelance on the side, but I'm working for a studio or a company? I think that you can, obviously your portfolio is showing your work no matter if you're freelance or you're full-time. But I think what you could put in the About Me would say, I'm currently employed here, and occasionally take select freelance projects, or, also work on personal and freelance projects, like something that kind of maybe reinforces your commitment to where you are at the studio, but also says, I think every designer out there is doing side projects. So I don't think that you're, and I don't know where you're at or what the scenario is, but I think that you can just be kind of specific about it. Say, hey, I work here, but I occasionally take on personal projects and personal and freelance projects.
I am absolutely available nights and weekends to help you with your needs. So it's a good segue to our third point, which is make your About Me work really hard. I think sometimes we have a tendency to want to be playful, and we definitely want to help people get to know us. But again, this is where you want to look through the lens of the client and saying, am I making it abundantly clear who this is where you can go into a little bit more detail about what kind of designer you are. And, as freelancers, I think we touched on this, but we ultimately we're problem solvers, right? So if Amnesty International comes to us because they're not communicating something correctly, what they need from a designer is help so that their designs are communicating more effectively. So if you can sort of, again, put yourself in the mind of a creative director or a client or a recruiter who doesn't have a lot of time, who is probably going to look at 5 websites really quickly to figure out who's a good fit for this. Like, you want to be speaking to them directly with your About Me. Or, if you're an artist and your site is all about selling prints, you are speaking directly to your customer. And we definitely want to make sure that you come across as friendly, as collaborative, as positive, as energetic. These are some of the intangibles that, that make the difference between hiring a designer that maybe has great work, but feels a little clinical. And it's hard to get a sense of, is this going to be someone that's easy to work with, mm-hmm. versus someone who really outlines like how much, the kind of projects they love to work. And the kind of energy and enthusiasm they bring to their work, and don't be afraid to say that you love doing X or Y. This is if that's something that a client needs, that is music to their ears. If you love making decks, my gosh, you are going to get so much work, because most designers don't love making decks.
Yeah. I think even for Andrew and I think there's certain things like, we worked with a friend, Kathy Heppenstall, who writes manifestos. Like, she's probably one of the best in the world. She's a world-class manifesto writer. And, a lot of times agencies will call her and they'll hire her for a couple days to take a pass at a manifesto, and a manifesto kind of being a brand manifesto, brand story. And that's a lot of what she does now, because she kind of became known for that. I agencies will often hire me to help with new business pitches because I've had a lot of experience doing that. I kind of like the variety of doing pitches and getting in on new projects, and kind of before the brand tells you you can't do stuff, I like coming up with those ideas, and that's what I'm hired for. So
that's such a good superpower, because
Yeah.
here's the thing, why an agency would love to hear that Aaron loves to do new business, because full-timers hate new business because it means long hours and weekend work. So for a client to say, oh my God, you love doing new business? Most people don't love doing new business because, it's hard work, ideas get scrapped. So that's such a good thing to articulate to, on your website. They're not going to know what you're like to work with unless you tell them. So that your About Me is really your opportunity to do that.
Yeah. I'm going to answer a question here that I just saw from Allison. She said, what do you do on your website when you have a diverse skills? I have a fine art degree. I work in illustration. I've been working in design for 13 years, painting, you have kind of check ////. She says, I want to just do illustration, but bigger paintings, and design also pays the bills.
So this is where part of me thinks that it might be worth having more than one website. Websites are, fairly easy to create, especially if you're a designer. So, I think sometimes I think if you have a website where you're trying to do too many things at once, it can get a little overwhelming. And I think sometimes clients too wonder, well, wait a minute, if you're doing design work and illustration and you're doing paintings, like how serious are you about any one of those things? And even just by making two websites, and sure, they're going to link to each other, and you're going to represent in your About Me that you have all these skills. But if you can have a dedicated website for what you make the most money doing, like keep that going. But then if you want to have another dedicated website for where you're going and what you want to be doing, then all of a sudden you can start pushing people into different places, right? And so,
you could even have a dribble page that is your art and your illustration work, or maybe your fine arts on one dribble page, the other, and you can kind of represent those things. But the more money you make as a freelancer, the more opportunities open up, and the more flexibility you're creating. And this isn't about just like a money grab. I just want all this money. It's not about that. It's more about creating time and creating opportunity and flexibility with money. So a lot of times I'm just kind of reminding us that we don't want to like sabotage the thing that's bringing in the money in order to follow these passion things. Kind of like that needs to kind of happen slowly over time. Once you have a little bit of success in this kind of area that you want to go, but don't shoot yourself in the foot and cut off all your resources.
Yeah, another huge thing with a website is, when we think about, there's so many questions about how many projects to share, what kind of projects. And, I'll share one anecdote. When I was helping to run the WK-12 school, which is a school within Wieden+Kennedy, there was only 12 spots and we would get like 800 websites. And, it was, I think, a situation akin to what a recruiter at a big client or agency is going to go through, where you just don't have that much time to spend on any one website if you have that many websites to go through. So what I would do is I would look on someone's first project and their second project, and then I would go to like their fifth or sixth project, just wondering if maybe they had hidden something interesting down below, or maybe if something really caught my eye, that would be the third one I would look at. But if they hadn't grabbed my attention by that point, it was on to the next, right? And I think that is, so I don't think there's any rule. Like I would hate to see a website with less than 6 projects. I know a lot of people say, well, don't do any more than 9 or don't do any more than 15. Mine has 25. And I think it's a little bit of a journey. It's big, but I think you can show any project that you are really proud of. And that is also the kind of work that you want to get. So I think back to the earlier question, if you are absolutely sick and tired of doing paintings, and by not doing any paintings, you can still have a vibrant career, both financially and creatively fulfilling. Don't put any paintings. I'm not saying to do that. I'm just using this as an example. But the work that you show on your website is the kind of work that you're going to get. So I think if you're sick of doing banner ads and you've got a lot of banner ads on your website, guess what? You're going to get banner ads. The problem, of course, becomes, well, what if that's all I've got? And I think this is where, personal projects really come into the conversation, which is something we're going to talk about, I think, again and again.
Oh, here's a great question. Is it okay to build your portfolio with creative, fictitious design project solutions to show off your creativity if the work you're currently doing does not allow for, I guess what you're asking is...
that was me screaming yes.
Wow, yes. Yeah, what do you think about that, Andrew?
Yes, absolutely. You have to be clear if you are doing, Nike work that you weren't hired by Nike to do. I think you want to be very clear that this was a spec project. But yes, I think, to that point of, if you don't want to do banner ads, but all the paid work you've done up to this point is banner ads, like, you need to create work that's not banner ads. And this is where personal projects come in. So giving yourself assignments, like, personal projects are great, call them passion projects or side projects, but you don't have a client who's going to tell you that your logo needs to be bigger, or that, hey, this is a little too political. We need to like soften the message here. Like, personal projects are absolutely something that you should be putting on your website. And, it can be for a real client. It can be for fictitious. It can just be art. I think we saw a great, something that we shared with our members was a designer made a series of posters for all the national parks here in the United States that were beautiful and really showcased their design skills. But then the quote was the worst online review of the park. So it'd be like Glacier National Park, and the quote was like, not enough bathrooms, like, add some porta potties. It was just like one after another of these beautiful places.
Yosemite is just a bunch of rocks.
Yeah, it's that kind of thing that, like, everyone started sharing and went around. And I bet that project that they probably did over a couple weekends got them more work than the rest of, than all of their corporate work combined, because it was something that people actually wanted to look at and wanted to share and were engaged in and were excited by.
And that really leads to this other kind of another thing on your website. What can you show that's unique to you? What's something that no one else could do? And a lot of times that comes from personal projects. It's not going to come from a Verizon social post, right? There's probably 15 people approving that. So, Andrew and I, the biggest breaks we've had in our career have come through personal projects. I actually hand drew a comic book for my church over the course of a weekend, and that's what I showed and got into Wieden Kennedy, because it was raw, it was creative, it was unique. No one else had done anything like that, and so I think in order to, there's always a couple of different paths going. One is like your career path, and one is kind of your what I mean career is kind of like where you're headed in your career, and then the other thing is like where is your creativity, and a lot of times those aren't going to perfectly match up. In fact, it very seldom does it actually match up. So you are kind of nurturing these two different things in your life. One and one, they're going to be varying degrees of satisfaction to you personally. But I think that's really important to kind of unique. But a lot of those unique things you can showcase on your portfolio actually will separate you from the rest of the flock.
And then one more thing I want to really introduce here as we think about websites, especially knowing that we have mostly designers here, is this is the writer saying you're going to have to do some writing. I think one of the biggest mistakes people do is putting up a project and expecting people who have a minute or two to spend on your website will understand what it is. So we are such huge proponents of adding copy to every single one of your projects. You want to explain what this thing is. Again, especially you're in India, you're in Australia, you've got someone looking from China. They might not, this may be a beloved brand in Australia, or a project or an event that people understand. But if someone's coming from elsewhere, they may never have heard about it. So making sure that people understand what the project is, making sure they understand what your role was, right? Again, back to this, like, and then really that's a chance to tell a little bit of a story. So you don't have to go on and on and on and on, but you want someone to be able to look, oh, this is really interesting. Oh, in a couple paragraphs, I understand, oh, this is a set of posters that you designed for this nonprofit. And not only did you design them, but you were actually the illustrator. Oh my gosh, I'm thinking, not only could I hire you as a designer, but you also do illustrations too. That's great. Oh, and then you actually are the one that went out and we pasted them all over the city. Whoa, we got a 3 for here. I can hire you to do all these things. So each project is an opportunity to start telling a story that's going to help clients understand how you can help them.
Okay. Amy asks, what if you're a terrible writer? Should you limit your copy? Yes and no. It doesn't have to be a novel. But the other thing is, find a writer that you can trade with, and you can do a little design work for them. You can help them put their website together, because writers are notorious for not putting together good websites. And ask them to write your bio and write help you work through some of the copy around your project descriptions and stuff. Just do a trade. There's no reason to hire anyone. Just become buddies with somebody who's a writer and make that make a little deal, and it actually will be more fun.
And you probably have a friend who thinks you're awesome. Sometimes our friends and loves your work. Sometimes you can get a friend who will say things about you that you wouldn't necessarily say yourself. We have a member, an old friend, Alexander Barrett, and his first website, I think he's changed it. He actually got his parents to write his website. And it was hilarious. So it was very clear from the outset, he's a writer and I'm getting my parents to write my website. But it's sometimes I say, you should write your website so that even your parents could understand, or a relative could understand what this thing is, because you've got clients for all different experience levels. And he actually did it. And it was one of those things where not only did he have a good website, but his website became almost his best project.
Right.
Because it was like, well, who does this? Who gets there? Yeah. And his parents were like, we didn't really understand this, but we understand it was quite successful. And it just added this whole other layer.
Yeah. So what we're going to do here is there's 3 things. We do have a break coming up in a little bit. Also, I do want to mention that because of Dribble inviting us here and all of you guys here, Mt Freelance is actually going to make a little bit of a membership offer. We're not real hard salesmen. We're not actually good at that part of it, but we are going to let you know that we have a discount offer if you want to continue beyond the Dribble course with Mt Freelance. The additional kind of deep dive into a lot of the other things that we cover, and have access to Andrew and I through our member group and stuff. So we will tell you about that. And if you, when the PDF of the homework is distributed, there's a link on there to get the discount. But so let's jump and we are going to have our sponsor, Thinkerific, is going to also give a little talk during the break. But let's jump into some Q&A. Do we have Madeline, how do you like to do this? I can turn up my little volume here so I can hear you.
Great session so far. We'll just pull questions from the Q&A tab. I put one on the screen at the moment so you could see it. This is the most upvoted question. 100 people want to know the answer.
Oh, wow. Okay. So after the break and moving on is all going to be dedicated to this. And I know some of you are probably thinking like, wait a minute, why didn't we jump into that? Because again, as much as you may be at the point right now where you just need work and you just need clients, I think doing some work around like what kind of working conditions allow you to do the best kind of work.
Right. So if I were to add something to this question, after the break, what we are going to cover is how do you find the right clients as a freelance designer? So we will get into that. I promise, Jared, and congratulations on having the most upvoted question. That's I never get votes on anything I do, so that must be fun.
And also, just a shout out, we're sort of kind of tracking the chat, and it looks like you guys are looking at each other's websites. You're giving each other compliments. This is such an awesome opportunity. Again, I think there's a couple copywriters who are offering to like partner with people. So this is such a great opportunity to network with each other and get to know each other and just check out each other's work and support each other. So that's a bit of a dodge, but don't worry. We've got the whole second half is about that, is answering that specifically.
So I think we're supposed to turn this off. Does Upwork still have potential? Francis asked that. I'm going to be real honest. Occasionally I use Upwork, but I never work on Upwork. And I don't think, if you're looking to build a freelance business, I think that there are a lot of obstacles in Upwork. But I also know there's exceptions to every rule, and I kind of think that we think about, and maybe what I'm actually thinking about is also Fiverr. Fiverr would be kind of like the even kind of lower fee version. I would, as a freelancer, I would stay away from Fiverr. Occasionally I'll use it for something, right? But Upwork, what I'll just be honest, as a business owner, there are certain things that I use Upwork to find really specific people that are really good at specific tools, where I can bring them in for a short project. I pay them pretty well, but it's very specialized. If that's the type of thing that you're in, I mean, whether it's like some programming on certain platforms, or let's say you're a Thinkerific design and course building expert, you might want to go on to Upwork, because I think there might be people that would just like, hey, I need help for this. It's really specific. But as a designer, I think that we're going to roll out a lot of different ways. Upwork could just be one piece of how you kind of bring in your money, but I think we're going to bring up a lot of other ways to build your business that isn't quite dependent on that. But
yeah, we actually, fair? Yes, very fair. And I think we actually, if anyone wants to go to mtfreelance.com and hit blog, I think we have an article posted up there that offers some of our ideas on how to use these sites. But then, because essentially what people are coming for is they're coming to get someone to do something for cheap, right? So we wrote an article that's up there. It's free, sort of that describes some ways to try to help vet those projects. There it is, Fiverr, Upwork, and Freelancer.com. So this article is really about how to sort of vet some of those opportunities to see who is really just looking to take advantage and who might actually be, an ongoing client, and then also how to sort of frame the relationships. So I think one of the things is just like, see if they'll have a phone call. And if not, they're probably they're looking to turn and burn, so there's just I think there's some things that you can do, because I think, what you don't want to get into is, and I think it's something that a lot of designers earlier in their career is they have that person that's just started a company and they get asked to do like the logo and the website and then this and then that, and it's not very much money, and there's scope creep, and this person's never actually looked at creative work before, so they just want review after review, and they can't really articulate what they want, and all of a sudden what sounded like this really great $4,000 job has taken 6 months and has no sign of ending, and you're thinking about do I need to call a lawyer because I haven't even got paid because this client doesn't can't approve anything. So we want to vet those kinds of clients away and find the things Andrew that can be recurring.
You just brought me down on that.
Oh gosh. But there's good people on there too. So I
think we might have some live questions, which are always really exciting. Let me see here. So Madeline, are we
oh, here we go. Can you succeed as a freelancer being an introvert who hates self-promotion?
Yeah. I mean, self-promotion. What am I?
Let me just do that.
Okay.
Yeah, there we go.
Self-promotion and touching base with someone. I mean, you, unless you're, have the best SEO of designers in the world, where people are just going to come find you. There is always is an element of reaching out, but it certainly doesn't have to be salesy. It doesn't have to be swarmy or just kind of like gross. You can just check in and say hi to people. Honestly, it doesn't need to be self-promotion. We talk a lot about when you're busy is often a good time to reach out to other people who are maybe past clients, and you say, hey, just wanted to say hello. I'm working on this project. It's been a really interesting project I'm working on right now, so I'm not available, but I just wanted to say hi, see how you guys are doing. It's that simple. It doesn't really need to be, but what I would say is introverts are often authentic, and I think authentic works really well. So you don't have to be someone who's comfortable going up and speaking in front of people and all that kind of stuff to promote your business. Let's see, Madeline, do we have
is it a bad idea to do freelance right out of college, or would it be smarter to work in an agency first?
Interesting question. I'll be real brief on this. The quick answer is I would work at an agency first, because you can learn a lot in a job, especially your first couple jobs. You learn so much that type of thing is actually really going to be helpful in your freelance business. It's also how you build your network in marketing, advertising, design, agencies. There's all sorts of people that, you go work at a place with 100 people, and within 2 years, probably 25% of those people are now working at other places, right? And now you have this network that's starting to build across a lot of different studios, a lot of different agencies, clients, that type of thing. But I will say, when the pandemic hit, for those who were coming right out of college, it was really hard to find a job, and a lot of students who were just kind of graduating and finishing up college actually had to jump in and do freelance. And Andrew and I actually did a number of classes last year with Brand Center, University of Oregon, and a bunch of other schools to help give those students a little bit of a leg up with their freelance career. But so really up to you, but I think there's kind of some real benefits in starting an agency job first.
Yeah, especially I think if you're looking for like a mentor, or you still have a lot to learn, that's where you learn that stuff. I think one of the reasons that I've been so successful as a freelance copywriter is I endured 7 years at Wieden & Kennedy, which is very much a writer's agency. And, to get a script approved, it had to go to the, your creative director, and then often the executive creative director, and then often the global executive creative director before a client even saw it, if it was for a big project. And so it just, I got so many of my ideas killed. I went months without making any work, but I just got really good. So, if you feel like you want that sort of deep dive, and you want mentorship, and you want that rigor, it can be really valuable to get some work really hard, get that experience, and then take those skills and as Aaron said, and to the introvert's point, like we say your network, but it's really just the people you know. And I think if you think about your network as just people you've worked with, people that you like, people that you would like to have lunch with, even if neither of you are working together or have any work to talk about. It's about, that's the joy of freelance, is that you get to choose who you work with, and you get to choose who you spend time with. And a part of it is like when we talk about what kind of a career you want to have, I like working with clients that appreciate me. I like working with I actually work with a lot of design firms, and what I like about it is that there aren't tons of writers there, so they tend to be very appreciative when I come with what I can do. And it's one of the reasons that I love freelance. All right, let's get another question here. How to establish authority as a new freelancer?
I mean, I think what you're what this question is kind of drilling into is just how, when I get started, how do I have credibility? How do I charge what my work is worth? I mean, number one, and I think this is like, one thing, Andrew and I are always really honest with people. If you have really good work, that will establish your authority. The hard thing is, as a new freelancer, if you're not real experienced, if you're kind of fresh into being the work as a designer, your work is probably not real good. Now, so improving your product, improving your skills, improving what you can do, will establish authority and trust with your clients. And that's often why the types of jobs you're going to get from clients at the beginning are probably not going to be the types of jobs that can really show off your abilities. So that's why we really recommend personal projects as well. But that's actually a great question. But also, if you're sitting there on the sidelines just kind of waiting to start, it'll never start. So I would say the other thing is just do it. Just take the courage to get going, and just kind of stick your neck out there for a little while, and eventually it'll start making sense and feel better.
And we're going to touch on some of the soft skills here in the second half, but a lot of being getting authority as a freelancer is, when you get approached by a client, responding promptly, is, either if you're on vacation, set that out of office email notification on, because if someone reaches out to you, you should be responding to them within an hour or two. And if a client engages you, you want to be responding, in a timely manner. You want to be hitting your deadlines. You want to be, asking the right questions. And so some of those are the things that, take some time to learn, but it's, if you're entering into a professional relationship, our clients expect us to be even more professional than their full-time employees, because we're vendors. And we are entering into sort of a contractual relationship where they are hiring us to do a logo or to do a manifesto, and they expect it to be done well on time. So it's basic, but it's, I know I was not capable of doing a lot of those things when I was younger, which is why I liked working on film sets where you just had to be, they told you when to be there, and then they told you when to go home. I think, freelance takes a lot of self-motivation, and you really have to be your own. One of the things we talk about is, as a freelancer, you are IT, you are the project manager, you're the producer, you're the boss, you're the coffee maker, you're the accountant, you have to be all these things. And so you don't have to do all of them well, but you have to do all of them well enough so that you're actually turning in invoices and you're turning in assignments and, you're doing all these things. So, if you're not kind of there yet, again, that's another reason to, say, maybe team up with some people or join a small agency or design studio and, have that network of, of people who are going to, help you work through some of these soft skills. Yeah, I mean, we're huge fans of freelance, but we know it's not the best for everyone all the time.
Right. I think we might be at the moment. Oh, it looks like it's happening here. Madeline. Hey, Madeline.
Hey.
I think it's happening, guys. Thank you so much, Mt Freelance. You guys are going to be coming back for part 2, where you're going to be digging into the part of attracting clients and understanding how to get clients as freelancers. Thank you so much for this part 1. We're going to be taking a quick 15-minute break. Thank you, Mt Freelance. We're going to be taking a quick 15-minute break where we're going to be hearing from our sponsors, ThinkyPic. So we've got our friends from our awesome sponsors, ThinkyPic, here. They are going to tell you a bit about how freelancers like you have helped freelancers like you create online courses. So we've got Emily here. She is the head of partnerships and marketing at ThinkyPic, the leading platform to create, market, and sell online courses. Emily has helped hundreds of course creators along their journey, and she believes that sharing knowledge through online education can create you a genuine impact for your audience while building a thriving business that you're proud of. So Emily's going to be sharing some examples of courses freelancers have created and telling you a bit about Thinkific, and also doing some question and answer. So ask your questions and she'll be happy to answer them.
Cool. Hi, everybody. So excited to be here. My name is Emily. Thank you for that intro. I am going to be chatting today about how you as a freelancer could create, market, and sell online courses, or how it might fit into your existing business. Now, I don't know, can you all see my screen? Hi, Felicity. I have an eye on the chat. I'm going to be keeping an eye in there. So jump in the chat. Let me know where you're joining from. And I will keep an eye out for lots of different questions as well. Now, before we get started, I love to kick things off with a quick poll so I know kind of who I'm talking to today. And I'd love to know if you as a freelancer have ever thought about creating your own online course. So if you can jump into the polls and let me know where you're at in your online course journey. Now, it doesn't just have to be an online course. It could be a digital product. Have you ever thought about it? We got a yes, I haven't thought about it. I am creating an online course, or maybe you're just interested to learn a little bit more. Hi, everybody. Hey, Brian from Vancouver. I'm also in Vancouver. Jump into the poll. Let me know where you're at in your online course journey. Cool. So I'm seeing a good mix of answers coming in. That's awesome. What I want to talk about today is, there we go. Did a little last minute slide update. So we're here now. But the universal challenge that freelancers face. So I've been listening all morning, hearing lots of good discussion about how to get started as a freelancer. And throughout my time with Thinkific, I've worked with a ton of different freelancers, expert entrepreneurs, solopreneurs who have built their business and are now looking for a way to scale. So one of the realities of being a freelancer is when you're consistently trading your time for money, you'll eventually run out of time. So I'd love to hear in the chat, is anybody experiencing this right now? Have you ever wondered, how am I going to scale beyond my current client load? Because this is something that I hear all the time, is how do I continue to grow? And really, when you're at this point, or maybe you have a full portfolio, or you're working with your cap of clients, you're starting to think about what's next for me. And there's really kind of three options that will work for you. First, you can raise your prices. So as a freelancer, you can say, I've made it, I'm going to raise my prices, which will allow you to earn more revenue without necessarily taking on more clients. And this allows you to charge based on the value of the outcome. Now, one of the challenges here is you can't just continuously raise your prices arbitrarily, right? There needs to be some additional value. Another option is you can hire to help more. So once you've succeeded as a freelancer, you can connect with other freelancers and maybe start to bring them onto your team. Teach them kind of your secret recipe or what you've done that made you so successful, and start recruiting other people to help you grow your business. This is awesome because, again, you can hire more customers, you can bring on more customers at the same price point and the same amount of time. But now your job is starting to shift. So maybe you're not working necessarily as a freelancer. Now you're more focused on hiring and training to build your team. And then the last option for you when you start running out of time is to think about creating leverage. And in creating leverage, you're starting to separate your time from the revenue you can earn as an entrepreneur by creating training or digital products that delivers results without your hands-on time. So you're starting to increase your earning potential, increase your area of impact without having to have more hours in the day. How does that sound? Has anybody thought about this as a way for you to start growing your business? I'd love to see in the chat. I see Renato, may the passive income arrive. Absolutely. That's the dream as a freelancer. Yes, Stephen, thinking about how we drive passive income. Now, where I want to spend most of our time today is talking about some actionable ways you can start thinking about including digital products in your business. I definitely recognize we're all at different stages, so there's a few different things you can do no matter what stage you're at in your freelance journey. So today, we're going to talk about the 3 ways to leverage online courses as a freelancer. The first one, and probably what you're expecting to hear, is online courses. So with online courses, you can start to productize your expertise to share with your clients at scale. So this means if you are an amazing graphic designer, you're creating a course to teach your clients how to do graphic design on their own. So that way you're able to get away from actually being the one to do the work all of the time. The nice thing about this is it doesn't necessarily have to compete with your services. You can always upsell, downsell, or even supplement your services. So for example, you can start with an online course that's an intro into graphic design, and then you could have your services as saying, need a little bit of extra help or somebody to take your designs over the line, then you can hire me. So it starts to create an opportunity to work with your audience. And you can create it one time. So the beauty of online course, and we already kind of talked about it in passive income, is that you can build a digital product and sell it over and over and over again without having to put in additional time and effort into that program. The next option for you to start thinking about creating leverage is a membership site. And I think I heard a sneaky little mention of a membership site earlier today. So it is an amazing option if you're consistently creating new content, sharing with your audience how you've been able to build your business, or maybe some guides or content that will help people also build a successful business. Now, the difference between a membership site and an online course is a membership site is an ongoing online course, if you want to think of it in a simple way. There's not necessarily a definitive end date. Your clients would typically pay a recurring subscription fee so that you're regularly releasing new content and they're regularly paying for that new content. And the key here is a real emphasis on client retention and community. So again, you're starting to build a community around what you're working on. So if you're a photographer, maybe you've created a membership site that is every month you're releasing maybe new challenges for photography or new creative ways to grow your business as a photographer, and you're creating connections within your audience for them to connect with each other. Membership sites are a bit more advanced, and I would definitely recommend this for anybody here who has an existing audience, but I really love to get started with an online course and mature into a membership site, depending on where you're at in your business maturity. And finally, the one that I think is probably the most relevant for everyone in this room, no matter what stage you're at, is online courses are an amazing tool to help you with client acquisition. So if you're trying to become a freelancer and you're looking for ways to acquire new clients, you're looking for new ways to do some marketing online courses can be great as a free online course to help you attract and nurture leads for potential clients. It's a great way for you to educate or qualify prospective clients. And you can also upsell into your other products or services. So an online course doesn't always have to be a revenue generator. If you're just getting started, you might use an online course to help you build your audience or find potential clients. With Thinkific, you can create courses that are completely free for your audience, and they can come in, and it's a great way for them to find you. The other option is you can sell inexpensive training to convert leads into your customers. So there's lots of different ways that you as a freelancer can start to think about using digital products in your business to find either new clients or to get out of the day-to-day of being a freelancer. So it's really up to you on kind of what model you think will work best for you. Now, I know I just threw a lot of information at you, and one of the things I like to do in shortest amount of time is really focus on Q&A. So I really encourage you, if you have any questions about creating an online course, a membership site, or how you might use courses to acquire new customers, definitely jump into the Q&A and let me know so I can hopefully give you some information today. The other thing I want you to think about is it's really important to understand who you're selling to. So some people use online courses as a way to connect with prospective clients, which is great. And other people use online courses to connect with people who are like them, but maybe a few steps behind them in their journey. So you as a freelancer can decide who you'd like to impact and where you would like to focus your time. Hopefully that was helpful. I'd like to do one final poll and see kind of which of these models is resonating most with this audience. So my last question for you before we jump into Q&A is, how are you going to use online courses, or which of these models maybe makes the most sense for your business? So we have the ability to sell a one-time course. You could potentially create a membership site, or you could use it as a way to get more clients through a free course or a client acquisition play. I'd love to know kind of which one resonates the most. And if you're still not sure, we're going to have Sean in the lounge, also from Thinkific, sharing some more examples and expanding on some of the ideas that I shared today to help you really visualize how this might fit into your business and if it's the right path for you. We do see a ton of success here, so I hope that you got a little nugget of inspiration as you can start exploring it more. Again, go hang out with Sean for for sure in the lounge after today's session, and he can expand on lots of these ideas and really share some inspiration there. And of course, if you join on with the Thinkific account, you'll get access to tons of training as well to help you understand which of these will fit in best and how to actually start building it out. Awesome. Okay. And the most exciting part of today is you're actually going to be able to start your own online course completely for free. So we have a special link for you to go check it out so you can start to learn some more information. I know I went 100 miles an hour here, so this is going to be a chance for you to go check it out, see what Thinkific is all about, and how you can start creating your own online course. So it's thnk.cc/dribble free. So you can go get ahead, create your free account, and start building your own program. And there's going to be a ton of educational resources there to help you out. Okay, so that's all I have for you. Again, go hang out with Sean in the lounge. He's going to be able to explain some different examples and get a bit more tactical with you on how online courses can help you in your freelance business. I'm going to jump in and see if there's any questions I can start to answer. Cool. So I see a question actually asking about, I see a different question here. So somebody's asking, once you have the course ready to release, what's the best way to promote it? This is a really good question and definitely one of the most common challenges. And it comes down to if you have an existing audience or not. So one of the things I recommend before creating your online course is to talk to your audience and start to kind of tease that the course is coming before you've actually created it. Sometimes we call this pre-selling. So it's the idea of polling your audience, or if you have a really small audience, maybe calling them or just talking to them and letting them know that you're going to be creating a course on a certain topic and asking them what their biggest challenges are. And then once you have your course, you actually ask them how much they'd be willing to pay for the solution. And that way you're bringing to market a course that is ready to sell. And you're really setting yourself up for success because your audience is primed, expecting a course from you, and you're making sure you're serving relevant content at a price point that resonates with your audience. Then you can bring it to your audience and do a pre-launch. So you can talk to them and say, hey, I actually built this course and it's ready to go. Go check it out and enroll for the first time. And you can also start promoting it to your wider audience. If you don't have an audience yet, it's a good starting point. So what I would recommend is starting with a lower price course and then really doing your best to get it out there. So some of the ways I see that is like partnering with creators who have maybe an audience and doing some different interviews and promoting your course. You might start to do some blogging or writing. You might add it to your portfolio site. So I heard a lot of talk about building your portfolio site. And so if you're seeing traffic to your site, you can add it there. And basically, my advice comes down to where is your audience hanging out and where's the best place to access them? And that's where you can really promote your course. Do courses centered around beginner learning still sell? Yes, absolutely. So my advice when you're thinking about like what level to create your course at is think about the person who's like a few steps behind you, right? Like remember where you were before you got started as a freelancer or before you even got started, maybe not even as a freelancer, as a graphic designer, as a photographer, or whatever your services are. Think about that person who is maybe 5, 10, maybe 2 steps behind you and what you needed to know at that point. And a lot of the times it is beginner content, and that's okay. What I see working really nicely is using those very beginner concept courses as like a free course or an entry point into your more advanced courses. But there's actually a good example of this that we saw from an entrepreneur named John Lee Dumas, or JLD, from Entrepreneurs on Fire. And he had this course, and it was a really strong course. It was all about building your first business, and it was amazing, and it was value packed. But the problem that he found is people were coming in and signing up for this course, and they didn't even know what their business idea was yet, which was like the most basic beginner thing. And he was like, why would people sign up for this course and not even know what their business idea was? But he realized that people need that very early stages content in a way that helps them take action. So yes, it's definitely valuable to use content in the very beginning stages. This is a great question from Louise. What are some ways my online course can stand out? Great question. I think the first thing you can do is really focus on student transformation. So think about like the last time you bought a book or an online course, right? You didn't just buy it for more information. There's so much information out there. There's almost like we're getting inundated with information constantly. But what we really want and why we purchase books and online courses is because we want some type of transformation. And so when you're building a course or a program, think about where your student or your customer is right now and where they want to be and what the most clear steps are that they can take to get to that dream state. And by building a course or a product that guides them through that in the simplest way possible and gets real results is the best way your course can stand out. And then the key is making sure that you're getting like social proof, testimonials, and you're letting your customers talk about your business for you. And I think that's true in digital products, in online courses, in freelancing. Like the best thing you can do is get social proof and testimonials from your customers. I think this is probably one of the last questions, but as a student, does it make sense to make an online course? Yeah, I think this is kind of similar to the concept I said earlier around like, think about, you don't want to be an expert with no expertise. So you definitely want to have some sort of expertise that you can teach, but you don't necessarily need to be all the way there and 100% you're the expert and the most achieved person in this space. But you are always going to be a few steps ahead of somebody. And so if you can help bring that person up a few steps or teach them how to get to the stage you're at, that is a great place to start. And there's something to be said for being able to speak to people who are just a couple steps behind you and help them move forward. I think that's all the time I have today. So go check it out. If you are interested in building digital products, we do have a free offer for you. So you can go to thnk.cc/dribble free. You can also come see us in the lounge. My coworker and course expert Sean will be there to answer any questions and to walk through some more specific examples, because obviously we stayed pretty high level today. But we're super excited to see what you create. We see freelancers and creatives creating amazing content all the time. So definitely encourage you to ask questions, check it out, and take action.
Thanks so much, Emily. We're going to get Mt Freelance back in here, but thanks so much. We'll leave the link in the chat as well that Emily shared today, and we'll speak with you later. Bye, Emily.
Awesome. Thanks so much, everybody.
Hey,
we're in this little. Oh, now we're on. Thank you, Renee, for obviously Andrew and I are pretty good, big fans of online courses because that's what Mt Freelance is. So, shoot, we could even answer probably some questions about what it's like doing an online course if you guys wanted to ask that. But let's stay on course.
Stay on course. Yeah.
Did anyone give themselves a raise or get a client and during the break? That would be kind of cool.
That'd be huge.
That would be cool if that happened. So now we're going to get into some tactics on how to get new clients, because that's what we want, right? That's now that we know this kind of clients and the kind of work that we want to do, and we've been self-reflective and we know our why that we're freelancing, we need some work.
Yes. All right. So maybe we'll show a slide here too. So yes, this is, I know what, this was the most upvoted question. How do you get new clients? So if we move to the next slide, Aaron, yes.
Oh, I think
is that on us?
Yeah, I can do it.
All right, there we go. So,
that would be a great campaign name for an Apple.
God, yeah, we should see if Apple's interested in this as a tagline. Think different. Yeah, it's. I mean, this. I think there's not like any huge secret that we're gonna unlock that is gonna finally, like, you're gonna just all of a sudden have more work than you know what to do with tomorrow. But there are definitely a lot of different approaches, and I think one of the big things, and we touched on this a little bit, but if you have your homework, you can even open it. But is using your network. And one of the things that we saw Jeff Sugarman comment that he does, but that most freelancers don't do, is actually organize. So we recommend, maybe even do it right now, is start a spreadsheet or some kind of document, and you want to keep a a document, a living document that has all of the clients that you have worked with, right? And that includes agencies and design shops and clients, but also people, because as we mentioned, people move around. Maybe you worked with someone at one company, you had a great relationship, and now they're on to another. So you want to have this document that has a list of all the people that have hired you ever, right? With their name, with their email, with a website, with some notes, because maybe it was 6 years ago and you forgot who they are. And then also, if you want to get some extra credit, have a tab for like, what are all their social channels, right? And then you want to do another list that has all of your potential collaborators. So, I think sometimes as freelancers, we think of other designers as competition, but there is so much work out there. And there are often jobs where you can't take. So using your network to refer other jobs to, so having a list of your collaborators, whether they're fellow designers, whether they're writers, a lot of times someone says, hey, we need a website. You might be able to design it, but you need someone to write it, or you need a UX expert. So, having a list of all your collaborators and all your clients and having it like as an actual live document. So if you're on vacation, someone says, hey, I need a great designer, and you're not like, oh gosh, okay, now I have to like think of who I know and then track down their websites. If you have it all right there, you can say no problem. And in 3 minutes, you can go do a little cutting and pasting, send it. And, that's such a great way to keep a client happy, is even when you're not working for them, is by being that resource. So I think, again, it's something that most people don't do, but we've got a little worksheet to get you started. But having a working document with clients, collaborators, and then your dream clients and your dream collaborators is huge. And then again, if you make sure that you are following all of those people, not just, your clients and collaborators, but the people you want to be working with, make sure you are connected to them on LinkedIn. Make sure you're following them on Instagram. If you're on Twitter, whatever social channels you're on. And then one of the ways that you start to create relationships is by liking them. And by liking things they post, and by commenting on things they post. And if you start engaging with, say 50 people at Nike, if you want to work with Nike and you're following them and you're liking things and you're commenting, sooner or later, some of those people are going to start checking your profile out and seeing what you're up to. And if you're sharing great work, all of a sudden they say, oh my gosh, wow, I had no idea that you're not just a fan. You're actually this fabulous designer. And hey, we actually have some common ground here.
Yeah. So Renee just in the chat just posted the homework PDF. So if you didn't get a chance to grab it, that's where it is. You can grab it right off there. Andrew and I are going to do also join you. There's all this kind of like networking going on in there. So we're going to drop our LinkedIn links in there if you want to connect with us. We like LinkedIn. That's a good spot. We used to kind of be jokey about LinkedIn, and now we actually kind of take it seriously because we're business people now. But I think talking about your network, it's students who you went to school with, it's your family friends, it's the person down the street who owns a hair salon or a food cart. I mean, we're not talking about high level stuff here to start getting work. All right. Start kind of like figuring this out. So,
sometimes we make this assumption that like, oh, there's the people I know in my life, and then there's the people I know professionally. But, that person that you went to elementary school that you think of as a friend, they may work in tech, or they may have gone to college and met all these people who work in tech. And that's the beautiful thing about social media. One of the few beautiful things and the internet is that it's so easy to start connecting with people. And if you are engaged there, that is such a great way to all of a sudden get exposure to someone that you maybe didn't even, might even not know your best friend from elementary school knows this person who, works at a place that you would love to work and actually needs a designer. So using your network is so crucial.
Right.
So let's go to the next slide here.
I got it.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, is it coming up?
We're frozen.
Right.
Are we frozen?
Can you guys see us? Can you hear us? All right, you can hear us. All right, can you see us? Yes. All right. So this is something kind of we just put together for this, but I think these are like, there are 5 ways to get a client, and we've listed them from the hardest possible way to the bottom. And a lot of you may be at the place where, you know, you're kind of only trying the first. And I think the goal as freelancers is to get towards the bottom. So, you know, the front door is, you see a job posted, you know, or you're like cold emailing a recruiter at your dream client, right? And that is absolutely the hardest way to get in. You know, the side door is when, you know, you are going to maybe a project manager or a creative director, someone who is not like a gatekeeper. You know, recruiters' jobs are to like filter out all but the most promising people. A recruiter succeeds if they're only serving up amazing people, you know, but maybe through social media, through sharing your work on Instagram and connecting to creative directors, maybe all of a sudden you're getting connected to someone who is directly like needing people and is not the recruiter, but is the creative director or is the project manager or the producer or the, you know, website administrator who like can't even get the recruiter's attention, but they need their website fixed immediately. And then the back door is, you know, a lot of times the most effective way to get into your dream client, again, is not that front door, not the recruiter or even the executive creative director, but it's a fellow student who just graduated that just got started. So one of the things about juniors and people who have just started at a company is their workload tends to not be as high. They're probably like really interested in, you know, in connecting with other people who are starting out in the industry. And, you know, they you know, it's much easier to get a coffee or an interview or an email exchange going with like a junior designer at your dream client than the recruiter or the creative director. And then we've talked about like kind of the idea of coming to you. You know, that is like, if, you know, especially for the introvert out there, if you are consistently creating amazing personal projects, what is going to happen is people are going to start coming to you for work. And if you can do that, if you can create a piece of work that makes people want to come to you, you're done. It's because all of a sudden, like, you've got something they want, right? And so really as a freelancer, that's the dream, is if you can get to the place where, you know, people are seeking you out because you're the only one that can do that. You have developed a unique design style or unique set of skills. You know, you've created a piece of work or art that people like want for their campaigns or for their brand, and they're coming to you. And then the best way, and this is something you always talk, the best way to get more work is to get hired by the people that have already hired you in the past. So we're going to kind of go through, you know, the some different approaches for each one of these. But, you know, really the dream as a freelancer, I think when you're starting as a freelancer, you're trying to get work, but where you want to get to the places where you have a roster of clients who are coming to you.
Right. Yeah. And a lot of times, we can rethink, maybe repositioning ourselves within an agency that we've already done some work with, or with a client. You know, if it's a bigger client, someone like Google, and you have a job over here, there's jobs all over within an organization that big. And also, you know, I think we talk about, don't be afraid to take on small projects. Like, when you do, the pay is probably a little less, but you can also, it's a good practice for setting up really clear scope of what you're doing, how long you're going to spend on it, the number of revision rounds, that type of thing. Don't be afraid to take on a few things that are too small because, or you think they're too small because they don't pay as well or they're not as big, but those types of things can lead to more work that's interesting, that kind of starts working its way up in terms of pay and exposure.
Yeah, I mean, I see a question: what's the best place to share your work to get the most visibility? And I think it's not any one place, but it's, you know, if it's if it's a visual, you know, if you're doing visual work, it's probably Instagram. You know, Instagram is perfect for visuals, and, you know, it has the advantage of once you've got someone following you, you know, you're in the feed. It's not the Facebook algorithm, so they're going to see your work. But it's
Yeah,
really,
I feel like, I mean, that's a great place to put kind of for the general public or your network to kind of see it, right? I mean, obviously, if you're looking to, you know, connect with other designers, other creatives, other creative directors, I mean, Dribble is obviously a great place for visuals. It's a little harder if you're a writer to use Dribble, but obviously we're mostly designers here. Um, but yeah, there's all sorts of ways. I mean, anyhow, should we get into some of the
yes, let's bring up the next slide here.
Okay.
Yeah.
This is one we just covered, huh?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, we'll go back to that list actually and just
Okay.
touch on them. So we touched on social media, but we cannot stress enough that if you are not following and connected to all of the people, all the clients you've worked with, all the collaborators you have, and this is where you make your list of dream clients and you make sure you're connected to them. And then, don't just set it and forget it. This is where you want to keep up on what your collaborators, your former clients are doing. Everyone loves a compliment. So if there's maybe a client you haven't worked for a little while and they post some great work, what a fabulous opportunity to reach out and say, hey, I just saw the new work. It looks fantastic. You're not asking for anything, but you're just reminding them that, hey, I'm still out here. And sometimes with freelance, it's that thing where you happen to be the person who checks in and they happen to realize, oh my gosh, we need a designer. We haven't even had time to tell a recruiter, we need someone to start tomorrow. There's so many times I've just gone in for a conversation with an agency just to get to know each other. And I get called the next day because they're like, well, something came in this morning and you were top of mind because you were literally the last person we were thinking about. You're not necessarily the best writer. You're just the last one we talked to.
Right. And, I think we also talk about sending great emails. I'm going to kind of give you an example of the typical email. Hey, just reaching out. Thought I'd make contact with you. Hope you're doing well. If you need me for any projects, please let me know. Recruiters get about 100 of those every day. Creative people that are looking to place people on jobs. Write a really interesting subject line. The subject line, tell them something personal or something interesting or catch them off guard with something. Don't make the email too long. Just make it really short, make it fun, make it interesting. This is actually really easy. It only takes about 5 more minutes to think of a way to position your email so it's super interesting. Let's see. We just asked for an example. What's an example of that from Rachel just asked? I'm going to say, hey, Rachel, I'm sitting here with my friend Andrew and we both wore pink shirts today. I can't believe it, but it did remind me that I should reach out to you and see how that last project went. Let me know what's going on. There's all sorts of ways that we can use the language, and we don't think about that a lot as designers. But we can use a subject line. Could be weird. It was pink shirt day, and that could be the thing that just stands out. It just gets someone to read it, laugh. I often will write people and check in on their pets because I know they're passionate about their pets. So I would just say. I'd write my friend Anne and say, hey, how's Lucy the corgi doing? What's new in her life? And that's all I'd write. And that was just a way. And then wouldn't you know, a week later, I get called in for a job from Anne. So there's a lot of ways to do it besides just being boring and expected. So.
And if it's a cold email, I think, I know you've heard this before, but do your research. So rather than just sort of say, hey, I'd love to work at your company, say, I have been a fan of this brand for this amount of time.
I saw the shoe drop you guys just launched. It looked awesome.
And this is where you can also say, I am a designer that specializes in this. I can't imagine you need any help, but it would be my dream to work on X project. Or, I have been a fan of such and such creative director. it would be incredible to be part of their team if anything ever comes up. So just that specificity and showing, I think recruiters, they can tell a, form letter from someone who is sending something personal and is passionate in a split second, right? So taking that extra time, I mean, I think when it comes to one of the reasons we talked about dream clients is you can spend this, like, if rather than go after 100 clients, take that same amount of time and go after 10 and be really strategic about it and really, create a plan where, again, you're rather than just start, answering every, Upwork offer or, every job offer, is to be strategic. Say, hey, my dream is to work for these 5 places. So I am going to make sure I'm connected to as many people at those 5 places as I possibly can. I'm going to like things on, I'm going to connect through LinkedIn, and then I'm going to strategically, find some people who maybe I can get a little bit of a internet relationship going with. And I'm going to ask them, hey, could I ask a few informational questions? I think sometimes we're very quick to ask someone for a coffee or for a beer or for a video interview. And those things take time. So I think sometimes when we can make our asks small, just reaching out to a fellow junior, and rather than saying, hey, do you have time to have lunch? That's a big ask from someone that they don't know. But if someone just says, hey, I've always dreamed about working at Nike. I saw, you're a fellow student. We have this in common. You just got a job there. I just would love to know, what is it like to work there? Is it as awesome as it sounds and it seems? That's an easier response than like, hey, can we have coffee? I'd love to pick your brain about what it's like to work at Nike. So some of these relationships, you're not asking for a mile right off the bat. You just want a little inch here, a little inch there. If they respond, oh, Nike's actually awesome, say, oh man, I would love to work there. Would you possibly look at my portfolio and just see if you think that I might be the kind of person that could get some work there? And I would love any feedback. So you're just getting that relationship going. You're starting, just with smaller asks. So, with emails, just a simple call to action is always smart.
Yeah, a lot of times we'll end our email with a question that's simple for them to answer. Make it don't ask them 7 questions. That's an email that will never be written back because it's too difficult. So you could talk about would you be willing to look at this portfolio real quick and give me your thoughts, that type of thing. I know we've kind of covered a couple other things on this list. Share your news is another thing. When you have something interesting that's come out or is out in the wild, or even a personal project that you've finished up, it's a good that's a good reason to email someone. Just say, hey, I just finished this. I'm really excited. This came out. The client was really happy, but really I was stoked that I sold in this color palette, on this project. Check it out. That's a totally legitimate email to send out to people. You want, anytime you reach out to someone, you want to provide value. You want to be giving something to them that is much more than just an ask. You're actually like giving them news, giving them exposure, giving them credit for something. So I think we should probably keep moving because we want to save a lot of time for Q&A.
Yeah. But it's just real quick. It's a very familiar thing for freelancers where maybe you email with the recruiter about a job, or, you get this, it seems promising and all of a sudden they just go dark, right? Some people call it ghosting, and, it's not that they've soured on your work. It's just they've gotten busy. Right. And so rather than follow back up like, hey, what about that job? Am I still in the running? Or, like, hey, I'd still love to work for you. Coming back strategically with like, hey, just want to let you know, I just finished this awesome new personal project, or I just finished this awesome campaign. I'd love to share the work. Or, hey, really sorry, I'm swamped with these other projects right now, but I just like want to just keep the conversation going. I can't work right now, but because I'm so busy, but like, would love to keep this relationship going. Like, even that is a piece of like news, is that you're so busy you couldn't possibly work for them right now, which is actually very attractive. We often want the things we can't have.
Yeah, that's good.
So the people that you've worked for are the most likely to hire you. So I think what we want to go through is just some strategies to make sure your jobs go successful. And so, this goes for, obviously people you worked for, but like when you take a job, like you're like, again, the way to freelance successfully is not to just have a series of one-offs, but is to work for someone and secure them as an ongoing client. If any of you saw that Fiverr, Upwork, Freelancer.com article we shared, it's all about creating a framework where you are positioning yourself as a creative partner and a problem solver, not just a vendor. So they come back to you again and again and again. So you're not having to constantly look for new clients.
So the idea of over communicating, this is when a project starts. This is your opportunity to ask questions, get clarification, and I mean there is a laundry list of things that you could potentially ask here. What time zone are you in? When we have meetings, how are the meetings done? When what software do you like us to work in? When we're building decks, what software are we using? Is it Google Slides? Is it Keynote? Is it InDesign? What are we using? All these kind of things. Do you expect there to be late work nights? There's all sorts of things that oftentimes as freelancers we're a little afraid to ask at the beginning. But the reality is it's a good time to, this is a perfect time to ask. So are there some other questions that you'd like to ask?
I think, like who's on your team, what are the deliverables? What is the timeline? What's the chain of command? I think, most problems that occur with freelance jobs happen because you don't get on the same page with your client from the outset. I think, I'm guilty of sometimes I'll say yes to a project before I even know who the client is or what they want. I'm just like, yes, I haven't worked in a while. And that's not great. Say, I'm interested. And then you want to ask all these questions. I'll share one story, and this kind of happened in the middle, but I was working for a very big tech brand, not Apple. And the project was going well. And then the executive creative director went to go on a shoot. And right around that time, a new person showed up. And I didn't ask who they were or what their job was. And I made the assumption that they were kind of there to learn, almost like because they didn't have an advertising background and this was an advertising project. So I found myself kind of talking down to them a little bit and explaining things.
Oops.
And turned out they were the new boss. And it was the only time that I have been let go early from a freelance job. And it just was because I didn't bother to ask like who this person was. And here I was, sort of talking to them like they didn't understand advertising when it was their job to approve the work or not. Right. Yes. Oops. Yes. So it's, and I think sometimes we think, oh, I don't want to ask so many questions. I want to get the job. I don't want them to turn me down. But really what asking all these questions up front does is shows that you're professional. It's part of how you get authority as a freelancer, because and sometimes it's going to reveal that the client hasn't really figured out what they want yet or what they need, which is valuable because maybe they'll say, you know what, actually, these are some good questions. Let us take a day or two to think about this. And you've actually already, before we've even hired you, you've given us the gift of making us think more clearly about this assignment. And then we're going to come back to you when we've got our stuff together, as they say.
Right. Another thing that makes you very valuable to clients is when you really over deliver. And I know this is kind of easy to say, easy to talk about, but show up early, be willing to just bring energy, be well rested, be positive. Like a lot of people that are in a full-time position somewhere and then they're bringing in freelancers, a lot of the full-timers are kind of worn out. I mean, they're bringing in freelance because they have a lot of work they need to get done. And when the freelancer comes in, it's your job to bring some energy, to bring some fresh thinking, some new perspectives, that type of thing. So there's no part of you that should just kind of be like following exactly the way it's happening there. Bring your own perspective, bring your own energy, and also over deliver. If it's like 10 logos, due on Friday, like turn in 12. turn in 12 on Thursday night and try to get going on the next review, even though it's a little bit more work for you. What people make their hiring decisions based on your performance. They based on the work you produce. It's not necessarily like how many days, how much did they get paid, what was their hourly rate. If you can deliver great work, the rate may not even come up as a question next time. It's just like they want the work because agencies are marking up the work and all that kind of stuff, so they have margins to play with. What they really want is talented people, and then talented people that are going to deliver. So that's just an encouragement to you to keep pushing, to bring quality, to bring that, bring what agencies are really looking for.
And sometimes they're going to ask for what doesn't feel realistic. So sometimes you can play with it a little bit if they want logos by Friday, and you can just say, hey, look, I've got some other things going, but I can definitely get you by next Tuesday. Is that going to work? And then you can give them Monday night. Say, hey, I'm so excited about this work. I couldn't help but send it a little early. So you've basically bought yourself more time, but you've still over-delivered. So sometimes these things are a little bit of a matter of illusion. But again, so many full-timers, like Aaron said, are just exhausted. And, we've all known editors or designers who have full-time jobs that are grumpy and like resent, like, oh, I've got to do this project. And as I saw someone comment about always being that breath of fresh air. If you can come in and just give 110%, even to that job that nobody else wants, that's when they're going to say, oh my God, you have just solved a problem. We have this project. Maybe it's a hard client. Nobody here wants to take care of it, but you've just come in and you've crushed it and you've done it smiling. Like, we are going to hire you. You're going to get hired 3 more times based on that one, on that one experience.
And I think you touched on this a little bit when we talk about kind of knowing your role. Take a little time, like Andrew didn't that one time, to kind of figure out who's doing what on this team, and make sure that you kind of understand where you slot in, and make sure that you are respectful of the other roles. If there's a creative director that is going to be approving your work, you obviously don't want to be talking down to them. If there's, the other thing is, if there's project managers, account people, that type of thing, or those types of positions, trust me, those people, which you kind of, as creatives, we often kind of spar with a little bit. These are the people that keep this thing moving. You really want to make them also feel supported and feel like that you're being very attentive to the work. They'll be very appreciative of that. So knowing your role, kind of like who the boss is, who your partner is. Maybe you get partnered up with a writer and you guys need to kind of like figure out times to work together. Be flexible because you're the freelancer.
Yeah. Sometimes you're being asked to come in and solve everything. Sometimes you're just asked to keep things moving. Maybe you're filling in for someone on maternity and, the idea is already sold. And what they don't need is for you to come in and change everything. They just need you to sort of babysit the project and make sure it's successful. Sometimes it's a small group and what they need is someone to actually just be there and make things more fun and help with morale. And, maybe if you're a little more senior, do a little mentoring and take people out to lunch. Sometimes that might be actually more valuable than, solving this particular client brief.
The other thing is, I think, kind of knowing your role, but also paying attention to how the business is working, how this design studio works, where there's opportunity. And maybe you don't always start out exactly in the spot that you would like to be in, but then over time you kind of get a lay of the land and you're like, okay, I could kind of see myself over with this team. I really think this person kind of maybe gets me. And just kind of like start working. You have the ability to kind of influence and ask for, oh, how about if I work over on this client? It's something that I have a lot of knowledge on, or I'm really passionate about. That can be really helpful as well.
One of the things too, if you are at a client or agency or wherever, and your freelance job is starting to end, is you can kind of look around and see if there are some places that need help. I've been in agencies and just sort of casually on the elevator towards one of my last days said, couldn't help but notice, your website hasn't been updated for a while. And I've literally had a agency owner be like, yeah, actually, we never have a time to work on it. And I've actually gotten a job just by saying, well, hey, I would be happy to stay on for another 2 days and, kind of work with a designer to kind of write your website. So, some of that is, I think when you are freelance, they tend to sort of think of you as, oh, we hired you to do logo design. That's what you can do. But you have the opportunity, once you have a relationship, to say, hey, actually, as we talked about earlier, I've got a great filmmaker friend or an animator or a film producer. Like, if you ever need video, like, I can help with that. Or, couldn't help but notice, your app needs a lot of work. Like, I've got, a partner and we could help with that. And oftentimes, there are the jobs that, a company or client is advertising, but there are all those other pieces that they just, they're working on the brief, or they just haven't really had time to address. So I think one of the things we can kind of do when we're inside of a place is look under the hood and say, hey, what else needs some help? What else needs some tinkering? Maybe they don't even think of me as someone who can help with this, but once you're in, you can sort of expand that role. And again, that's really about positioning yourself as a problem solver and as a partner, and not just someone who's going to come in, do the job, get the paycheck, and move on to the next place. You really want to sort of create that relationship and keep it going and growing it.
I think we're gonna end on one more kind of pointer here, and then we're gonna talk through a couple other things and then get into the Q&A, because we're getting pretty close to doing Q&A. But one thing that Andrew and I we say no all the time to projects that are not right for us, and we never say no. And I know that's going to sound kind of funny, but when a project comes along, you're either booked, it's not a good fit, you don't like the person who's bringing you the project, it's complicated, you have a vacation planned, whatever. We always say no. We don't say yes to projects that aren't a good fit, but we never say no to the client. We say, but I've got an idea of somebody who can do it. And what we have is, I have 2 or 3 other art director, creative director type folks that I will recommend for jobs that I can't take. And they will actually recommend me for jobs that they don't take. And whether that's a scheduling conflict or they're traveling or whatever, now all of a sudden I get calls from somebody. It's a referral. They already are interested in me. They're trusting me because my friend recommended me to them. And I think we do have a big article about saying no on the blog as well, where we kind of go into more detail about this. We have a couple lessons about it in the membership, but it is it's a really good skill to have. It takes growing some courage and confidence to say no to things, even. But it's part of this why. If you go back and look at your why and you go, hey, this doesn't fit why I'm doing this, and that makes sense, right? It makes sense to say no.
Yeah. And sometimes, it's a project that you want to take, but you can't at the moment. So the other thing to do is to say, oh my gosh, I would love to take on this project, but I'm on vacation for the next week, but I am slammed, for the next week and a half, but then I'm free. And, sometimes they'll say, oh gosh, we got to get started immediately. But sometimes they'll say, actually, that even works better because our client is still, trying to figure out their brief. And they might be thinking, oh my gosh, like, we can save a little money by bringing you on a little bit later, or timeline shift. They may say, oh, okay, fair enough. And then all of a sudden you get a call 2 days later. They say, well, guess what? The client pushed a week. Now are you available? So, again, I think sometimes, we get that. I still, after doing all this time, I still get this jolt when I get an email from a client, even especially a new client, but even when I've worked for, about a job. Immediately I start going through like my schedule and like how much work I have and how much I might make and how exciting it might be. And, I think a big thing with freelance is just taking a moment to relax and realize it's going to be okay. I got to ask some questions. I got to take a moment. We want to get back to them quickly, but it's not necessarily all or nothing. It's about creating, it's about communicating and creating this relationships where even if we don't get this job, if we handle it right, they're going to come back to us again and again. I've had agencies I've said no to several times, but I just keep referring people and they keep coming back to me. And all of a sudden I'm referring, UX people and producers because they just like, my gosh, we've never even worked with you, but every time we get in touch, you give us more people to hire and you become this resource. And it's just such a great way to stay top of mind and be helpful and be that problem solver that clients are looking for with freelancers.
Well, I feel like on some level we kind of turned on the fire hose of information for you guys, and hopefully this has been you've been able to pull some things out of this that'll really help.
And we're going to answer so many questions. But first,
we are going to do this is our kind of attempt at being a salesman. We have some used car sale now. But we do want to tell you a little bit about what Mt Freelance is. We won't bog it down too much here, but Mt Freelance is a course. It's a 35 course lesson and a community. We get together once a month. We're on a Facebook group all together. It's a private Facebook group where only members can be in it. Andrew and I are in there frequently. And what we do is we basically just support each other with knowledge and support each other with a network through the freelance journey. We've been doing this for a couple of years. We've had a lot of opportunity with Adweek and a lot of other places to kind of like grow this business, but we're very grateful to be here with Dribbble and to meet all of you today. I do want to, maybe we can go back to the slide really quick, because I just want to point this out, and the link will also be at the end of the homework. But we try to keep things really affordable. So it's $297 a year to be a part of the community and get access to the 35 lesson video course, ongoing access with Andrew and I. For our Dribbble friends and all of you guys, we're knocking $100 off of it. So we want to try to keep it real affordable. This is for a year access to Mt Freelance. Just kind of showing you, this is a kind of an example of some of the things that we get into. A lot of things that we haven't been able to cover today. We are going to, next week, we're going to talk about money, and we will be transparent. You can ask us anything you want about money. We'll tell you the craziest stories we ever heard about freelancers and money. We'll tell you whatever you want to know that is applicable to you. And we'll try to get really specific next week. But also this course and the community is a way to extend that. If you've gotten a lot of value out of today, you're welcome to join us in our membership. So it's $100 off. It's only $197. And we'll keep this offer up through the next class. So there's no pressure. You can kind of think it through a little bit or whatever. But I will say, I wish I had this when I was starting out. It's a great investment in your career. It's very, you're going to make this money back immediately in what you learned from the class. So that's about as much of a sales pitch as we will do. But here's the link. We'll put it in the chat, and it's also you can link from the homework as well. And one last thing in the homework, there's a page where we want you to kind of answer a question before our next week where we talk about money, and that is like, in the next 12 months, ideally, how much money would you make as a freelancer doing what you do? And we will kind of reverse engineer what it will take to get to that number. So be realistic, but also be optimistic. So we are ready for Q&A. We can take the slides down now. Thank you so much, Madeline and Renee.
And Madeline, yeah, if you want to maybe serve up the ones that are around getting work, and we can kind of save the ones around money for next week, that would be awesome. And website and just any sort of random, I know there's been so many great questions. So let's see. Yeah, we've got plenty of time for Q&A. As a freelancer, do we really need a portfolio website these days, or just Dribbles, LinkedIn, Behance, Ins, and all the social portfolio?
I would say if you have, like a massive following on Dribble, and that's where you send people every time, you could choose, I think you could absolutely use a Dribble page as your portfolio. That's fine. There may be some things if you do a lot of film, I think you could do that. I mean, I think a LinkedIn page is not sufficient enough as a portfolio, but I also believe in having a really smart, thoughtful, thought through LinkedIn page.
I mean, if you're getting all the work you need, then no. But if you're not, I think what a website does, especially for designers, gives you a way to, again, make the website itself a project and a showcase of how you design and how you tell stories, and it's yours to completely control. And I do think also it just adds a little, back to that question about authority. It's just a little like, oh yes, you've got this incredible Dribble page, but also like you are a business because you have a website. They're so easy to have that I think why not? Yes, it's going to take some time. And it's just that thing that, when the other thing is like when a recruiter finds you, that's not the end of the road. Like then they're going to put a little brief, hey, here's who I think we should send. And they're going to send it to everyone. And, I think just seeing that your name or your company and the website, it just adds that like, oh yeah, this is someone legit, not someone who's just starting out and hasn't gotten around to doing a website yet. That's my take.
Yeah. Let's see. When you meet a potential client and they email saying that they want to work with you and will be in touch, but you don't hear back for a few weeks, what's the best way to follow up with them? If your only contact with them is through email, and you followed up maybe 2-3 times. I mean, this happened to us the other day on a project, it just happens. You could write something funny. You could send a funny GIF. You could also just say, hey, just so you know, when your next project comes in, just write them and say, hey, just so you know, I got booked on this other project, but I just want you to know that I'm still interested in working with you down the road. Something like that. But it is, that is the dilemma of, is it's hard when we don't hear back from people. But that's why you have to have a good pipeline of projects, clients, potential things working, because if you're just waiting for one, which I know, Mel, I don't think you're saying that, but I like to have 5 or 6 possibilities going at all times, and then I'll probably say no to 2 or 3 or 4 of them. And that's how you stay busy.
Yeah, I think that's really good advice. Just that sort of, hey, I've got something else going, or hey, I might be taking on this. I just got another call about this huge project. You have first right of refusal, but if you need some help, even you can even invent that, but it's just a way to sort of push them. It would take me out of commission for a week. Do you want to get started immediately, or should I check back in with you? And it sort of puts it back on them to either say, hey, actually it went away, or actually another week and I'll be ready, or please, let's do this.
What if you're booked on one and then they call you and say they want to book you? Rather than saying no, a lot of times what I will do is I will bring on another designer, another creative to work with me, and we'll tackle both projects together. We'll kind of split things up. I will pay them. I'll make a little extra money on it, that type of thing. There's definitely ways that you as a freelancer have some flexibility, especially now that we're all remote. You can really exploit the fact that we're remote for for this flexibility of who's working on things, how's it, all that type of stuff. So hopefully that helps.
Ooh, client red flags, things potential clients do say that should be a warning not to take them on.
Great question. You know what would be fun is, what if everyone can add some red flags? Maybe we'll do a little a little emoji that's like a stop sign, and you can just say, what are things that you've heard from clients that make it
Yes.
like you should run the other way.
We've all had projects that went sour, and I'm sure we've gone back and said, that's what I should. That's the thing that should have warned me. We're scrappy. That's good. Yeah. We don't have a lot of money, but.
Oh, I like this one. I've heard it a million times. It'll get you a lot of great exposure.
Yeah.
That's good. And
my nephew knows Photoshop. He said he could do it for nothing. Great. We can't. I'm sure your clients will love your nephew's work. Yeah.
And this one. Sorry, where's the PDF homework? No, I'm kidding. That's
we'll add it. We'll make sure it's there.
We keep posting it. I think it's going to go out in an email after the class as well. So
yeah.
Don't worry if you couldn't find the link in the chat.
Yeah, it's often tone too is a big red flag. If it just feels like all business and then if you ask some questions and you don't get them answered, that's a huge red flag.
For instance, I think one of the trickiest projects to kind of scope and plan for is a website, because it really requires a lot of upfront planning, talking, strategy, and then it also requires the client to do a lot of work ahead of time to get the content you need to get all that stuff. And so, a lot of times on a website project, honestly, you could just double your price of what you think, oh, this should be a $10,000 website or a $5,000 website. Charge 10, and if they don't take it, you probably avoided a headache.
Yeah. Oh my God, there's so many good ones in this. The other thing, the classic one with the website is where it's a website ask, but then but actually you need a whole new brand. You need like a new font and a new logo and a new look and feel. So I think that's for those of you who are working with smaller clients and, maybe are working directly with clients, I think one of the biggest watch outs is taking on the branding and then the actual work. So, one of the things that Aaron and I have done when we've worked together for, clients that are newer to marketing is to separate it, say, hey, look, the first thing we're going to do is to rebrand you. And that's an incredible amount of work. And there's some education there. I think another huge red flag is working for anyone who has started their own business, anyone who doesn't have people on their staff who have worked in marketing before, because they don't know the creative process. They don't understand, that good work takes time, but so, sometimes people want the whole thing all at once. And you got to say, no. Actually coming up with a good brand takes a lot of time and work, and I will scope that. And then once we're in a good place with that, then we can talk about like actually implementing this into a website or into an app or into, actually maybe you hire someone else to actually make your food cart website and branding and all that and do the cart. But I think, sometimes, a huge red flag is when the deliverables are like, do, there's just so many things and you realize, oh my gosh, if this goes great, it's going to go really great. But if this goes bad, we're going to get one thing down into the deliverables and still have 7 more things to work through.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad with it. We asked the community here to give us the red flags. There's a lot of good ones, way better than we could have come up with.
Yeah.
So thanks for sharing all that stuff. Aaron, how did you learn design skills if you didn't receive a formal education? And did you struggle with imposter syndrome if you were self-taught? Great question. Honestly, I in college, I got an Apple computer and I got Photoshop on it. And I started teaching myself. In terms of, there are some major holes in when I started in what I knew about design, but what I did just personally, I was a sponge. I just consumed design, music, art constantly, and I started learning layout. I started learning a lot of those types of things just through just exposing myself to massive amounts of good design. I will say, I think, and now we're kind of getting out of the business side and talking creative, but I think that the greatest skill that a designer or a visual person can have is taste. And that takes a long time to develop, or maybe not a long time. It just takes, some people maybe acquire it easier than others, but um, imposter syndrome is, I almost hate the word. We have a friend who hates the word writer's block because really it's an invention. It's not even real. I would say imposter syndrome is something, if you could just ignore that idea and just don't believe it, just do it. Just do what you want to do, create momentum, continue to be humble, continue to like get better, and be willing to change. But yeah, there are definitely some holes in my training that had been exposed a little later in my career, at different times, but that's just how it goes. But I appreciate the question. I don't think anyone's ever asked me that, so thank you. Let's see. Madeline, how are we doing on time here? Is this
Yeah, we got time for a couple more questions.
Good,
I think.
Good. This has been a lot of fun for Andrew and I, so thanks everyone. Let's see. Tips for dealing with the freelance remote working creative burnout, which is actually, that's a great question. That is something that I think, so the question is, hey, we're freelancing, we're working remotely, we kind of have to stay on things, we're in front of these computer screens and Zoom fatigue and all that other kind of stuff. And how do you charge yourself creatively to kind of keep going? Do you have any suggestions for that, Andrew?
Well, I think, there are going to be certain jobs or, certain clients you can and can't do this with, but to say, hey, look, I'm totally up for being in this video call, but I'm going to have my camera off. I need to, and just be upfront. I'm totally engaged. And then, maybe doing that, then call, you can call in and actually go for a walk while you're doing it, or, with collaborators, maybe it's not the big important meeting. Say, hey, can we just do this on the phone? Like, I have Zoom fatigue, and I'm sure the other people could say yes. Almost everyone I've suggested a phone call versus, a video call has said, yes, I'm totally fine with that. And then, yeah, I think really, back to like sort of what kind of, freelance career do you want to have is setting some boundaries. I think that's a huge part of over communication is, if you know that you have therapy every Wednesday at 4, or you've got a niece or a kid to pick up every Friday after 3, like communicate that up front, like maybe it's not the first thing, but, before you agree to the job, just say, hey, a couple things you need to know, I'm not on email after 5. I'm going to hit all my deadlines, but so carving out some boundaries, creating some boundaries so that and when you can do that is upfront, and just so a client knows from the get go, make sure I'm going to give you 110%, but like you cannot text or call me on Friday. And I'll even be back Saturday if you need an hour's worth of work. But those kinds of things, just so that you can advocate for yourself and the working conditions you need.
And I think also just knowing yourself, what relieves stress, what creatively inspires you. Honestly, if I walk through an art museum, that charges my batteries for a month. oftentimes I'll go for walks. I'll take my dog for a walk just to stop sitting down and staring at a screen, and that really helps me just kind of reset.
Yeah, get a dog. Don't start smoking. It's healthier. Yeah. It's a healthier way to make sure you do things. So there was a great question about how to even get started freelancing. Well, I think, if you're in the position where you are still gainfully employed, I think the answer isn't just to quit your job and just let everyone know you're freelance. I think freelancing successfully, and if you do have a job, it's a great time to start putting those pieces in place. If you are, it's about starting to reach out to, creating that list of your network, all the people that maybe, have moved on from your job to other places, and just checking in. Hey, how's it going? What's been, how's the last year and a half been? How's your new job going? Not right off the bat, I'm thinking about going freelance. What are the opportunities that you're, but again, starting to nurture all these relationships again, creating that website. I think the other thing is thinking about your network as far as like who, if you're a designer and you don't have a ton of experience, or you don't have clients yet, is leaning into those family friends and old friends and saying, where are the places that these people work? Do I know some small business owners? Could I offer my services to, and who needs help? Do I have a friend who's got a small business that is really suffering and their logo is terrible, their website's all over the place? Is this an opportunity for me to do some work that maybe I won't get paid a ton for, but all of a sudden I'm going to have a great portfolio piece because I've turned this, this bad logo into a fantastic one, and I can do a whole logo study, and I know my friend's going to go for it if I give them a super cheap rate, or even do it for free, free food for 6 months, and kind of looking at who is in your network, and again, being proactive about approaching some potential clients that you have a legitimate, kind of shot at engaging with.
But I will also interject that part of the what we're going to cover when we're talking about money, we're talking about how to charge and how to set up projects and how to bill and all that kind of stuff, is actually the second half of your question of how to start freelancing. So now you have this sense of, how do I find clients? How do I think of my why I'm freelancing? But next week we're going to get into how to bill, how to charge, how to get value for your work, and all that kind of stuff. So definitely come back next week, because I think it'll actually help all this make sense.
All right, we got 7 minutes. Madeline, hit us with a few more. What else we got? How do I protect myself from scammers as a freelancer?
Well, we will talk about that a little bit more next week. But there are certain ways that, or an order of things in terms of agreement, in terms of trust, in terms of projects, how they're set up, that we will get into a little bit more next week. But sometimes it's a bit of a gamble in terms of taking on a project, working with someone new. But for the most part, is if you work within your network, you're not going to be exposed to scammers, because you're working with people that people that know you. So I do think this is probably a bit of a issue where people will say, "Hey, we need you to do this work." You do the work, and then they disappear. That always breaks my heart when I hear about that. So
go back up to the chat with all the red flags and screen capture all, because we just sort of crowdsourced an incredible list of things to be on the lookout for when you have and it's always with the new client. Actually, once you've worked with someone, you've been paid, you're in the clear, which is again why we want to get to that place. But really go through that chat, and there's so many great so many great watch outs based on people's experiences. Madeline, you were come on back, Madeline. What's going on? You had something to say. Are we at a good place here? Oh, hey, Madeline, I think you.
I think Madeline may have gotten eaten by robots, because that's kind of what that sounded like.
Connection.
Mm. So I think Madeline, we're getting some robot. I suspect what Madeline is saying is how fabulous we hope a time you all had. Let's make sure we post the PDF one more time. And I think, so let's make sure, everyone gets the homework. It's optional. We're not saying you have to do it, but if you're serious about this, we would really recommend you going through the PDF. We are going to be back next week with more. We're going to talk about money. And then I believe we're going to hand things over to Sean from Team Thinkific. If you want to jam with them a little bit on. Are we back? How are we doing?
Are we here?
Still a little robot-y.
Hey guys.
Hey.
Sorry about that.
Renee's going to jump in. Huh.
Hey guys, can you see me?
Yeah.
Awesome. Sorry about those tech issues. So thanks so much, guys. That was awesome. We're super excited to have you back next week. So thanks everyone for coming. We're actually going to jump into the lounge here shortly with our sponsors, Thinkific. So come join us there. So you'll be able to actually turn on your cameras. A select few will, about 16 people max. But if you don't have your camera on, you can simply listen in and ask questions in that chat. You're going to be receiving an email from us with a PDF from Mt Freelance. So thank you guys for providing that. We had it in the chat as well, but you'll get it in a follow-up email, and you'll also receive the exclusive discount to join the Mt Freelance community. So look out for that shortly. We hope you had a wonderful session, and head over to the lounge right now, and we will see you there. And thanks, Mt Freelance.
Thanks again. Really appreciate it. See you next week.